Hey everyone. This is Six Path Weeb, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where we dive into epic anime fanfictions. Today's fanfic topic is, what if Naruko was born in the Sannin's era? Part 2. Disclaimer, this content is purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage used in this video, all rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's jump right into it. Leaf Academy. 1 week later, Team Assignment Day. The week following graduation passed by in the blink of an eye. After leaving the academy that day, Naruko's group celebrated with a meal at a barbecue restaurant owned by the Akimichi clan. Everyone enjoyed the food and conversation, sharing laughs and memorable moments. One particularly amusing incident involved Jiraiya and Orochimaru playfully arguing over a piece of pork, and, of course, the highlight of the evening, when the bill arrived, Sakumo ended up footing it, dramatically lamenting the loss of his allowance. After the gathering, everyone went their separate ways, agreeing to meet again in a few days for a sparring session. When Naruko and Tsunade returned home, they were greeted with a surprise celebration from the entire Senju clan, congratulating them on becoming Jonin. Their family members presented them with thoughtful gifts. Tsunade received a new kunai and shuriken holster from her parents, while Mito gifted her a beginner's scroll on medical ninjutsu, personally written by Hashirama. The gift filled Tsunade with excitement, further fueling her ambition to master the art of healing. For Naruko, Amaya presented a stylish gray cargo vest with silver fur lining the collar and hem. When Naruko asked why she chose it, Amaya simply smiled and said, "It just felt like something you'd wear." Naruko gratefully put it on right away. Itama gifted her 5 scrolls containing C-rank elemental techniques, one for each of the 5 main elements, along with a playful reminder, just remember to use these wisely. Mito's gift, however, was particularly special. She handed Naruko a beautifully crafted katana. The blade, approximately 28 inches in length, was made from chakra-conductive metal, polished to a pristine shine. The circular tsuba bore the iconic Uzumaki swirl, while the grip was wrapped in sleek black cloth. The matching black wooden sheath was adorned with delicate red plum blossom engravings. As Naruko held the sword with admiration, Mito explained its significance. It was called Kurohime, Black Princess, and had once belonged to a skilled samurai who married into the Uzumaki clan and mastered the legendary Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu sword style. His name was Kenshin Himura. Deeply moved, Naruko hugged Mito in gratitude, vowing to wield the blade with honor. The rest of the week was filled with training and bonding. Naruko and Tsunade spent time with their friends, growing closer and strengthening their determination to become exceptional kunoichi. Over the course of the week, they built a strong friendship based on mutual respect and shared aspirations. Now, they found themselves sitting in the classroom, awaiting the arrival of Aiku-sensei, who would announce their team placements. Naruko had a good idea of at least one team already, the future legendary Sannin, taught by Hiruzen Sarutobi. After a few more moments, their instructor, a brown-haired man, entered the room and cleared his throat to capture everyone's attention. "Alright, listen up. Today, you'll find out who your teammates will be and who your Jonin instructor is. Pay attention, I'm only saying this once." The students quickly quieted down as he began listing the team assignments. Naruko, however, tuned out momentarily, just as she often would with Iruka in the future. Instead, she pulled out a scroll and some ink, working on a basic barrier seal Mito had recently taught her. She focused on refining the seal structure, only tuning back in when she heard her teacher announce. Team 7 will consist of Orochimaru Hebi, Tsunade Senju, and Jiraiya. Your sensei will be Hiruzen Sarutobi. Gasps of surprise echoed through the room. Most of the class could hardly believe that the Hokage himself, the man revered as the god of shinobi, was personally taking on a team. Orochimaru looked pleased, knowing he would be able to learn from one of the most powerful shinobi in history. Jiraiya, while thrilled to study under the Hokage, felt slightly apprehensive about being paired with Orochimaru and Tsunade, worried that they might tease him once they were away from Naruko. Tsunade, on the other hand, was absolutely ecstatic. Having known Hiruzen her whole life, she admired him deeply, especially since he had been mentored by both her grandfather and granduncle. Aiku-sensei quickly regained the class's attention with a sharp cough. "Yes, I know it's surprising that Lord Third is personally training a squad. However, he believes it's time to pass his knowledge on to the next generation. Now, let's continue. Team 8 will consist of..." He continued listing names until he reached Team 9. Team 9 will consist of Sakumo Hatake, Izumi Uchiha, and Naruko Uzumaki. Your Jonin sensei will be Danzo Shimura. Naruko's eyes widened in surprise. She was happy to be teamed up with Sakumo, a good friend, and Izumi, the second best kunoichi in their class and a promising ally. What caught her off guard was their instructor, Danzo Shimura. Danzo was widely known as the darkness of the shinobi world. He was a man with a formidable reputation, often associated with strategic and unyielding leadership. In the past, he had played a significant role in shaping the shinobi world from behind the scenes. Naruko had heard many stories about his influence, especially his strong belief in protecting the land of fire at all costs. She also recalled that, during a particularly difficult time in the future, Danzo had briefly been considered as the sixth Hokage candidate. He had led a secretive Onbu division known as Root, which operated under strict discipline and unwavering loyalty. His determination to strengthen the village had led him to take extreme measures, including seeking out powerful abilities and techniques. While Naruko was uncertain how this assignment would unfold, she remained determined. Regardless of her new sensei's methods or reputation, she knew one thing: she would grow stronger alongside her team. Naruko shakes off her thoughts, realizing that this version of Danzo has not yet become the person she remembers. If she handles things correctly, perhaps he never will. Additionally, Danzo is known as the second most skilled ninja in the village after the third Hokage, Sarutobi, as the two grew up as rivals. This means he is at least an S-rank shinobi. Her reflection is interrupted when Sakumo places a hand on her shoulder and says, "Looks like we're teammates, Naruko. And our third member is Izumi-san." The red-haired girl smiles at her friend. "Yeah, that's great. I've also heard our sensei is pretty strong." Sakumo gives her a puzzled look but shifts his attention back to their instructor, Ikus, who continues announcing the teams. Once all the teams have been assigned, Ikus addresses the class. "All right, those are the teams. Your Jonin instructors will arrive shortly to meet you. While you wait, take this time to sit with your teammates and get to know each other. It has been an honor to teach you all over the past 2 years, and I look forward to seeing what you accomplish in the future." With that, he turns and leaves the room, allowing the new Jonin to gather into their teams. As their usual seatmate moves to join their own team, Izumi walks over and takes a seat beside Naruko and Sakumo. The Uchiha girl smiles at them. "Looks like you were right, Naruko. We're on the same team. What were you two talking about?" Naruko returns the smile while Sakumo appears deep in thought. He then says, "Naruko mentioned that our Jonin sensei is strong, and I was just about to ask how she knows that." Naruko smirks. "Well, since I live with the wife of the first Hokage, I've met a lot of important people over the past 2 years. Chief among them is the third Hokage, as well as his teammates, Homura-san and Koharu-san. All three have spoken about Danzo Shimura. According to Hiruzen Ni, Danzo is considered the second strongest ninja in the village after himself. He's highly skilled, strategic, and remains calm under pressure." Izumi nods. "I've heard of Danzo Shimura as well. My cousin, Kagami Uchiha, was his teammate when they were Jonin, and they still go on missions together sometimes. He always speaks highly of Danzo's abilities." Sakumo takes a thoughtful stance. "So, what you're both saying is that we'll be training under someone nearly as strong as the Hokage?" Both Naruko and Izumi nod in agreement, causing Sakumo to grin. "That's good news. It means we won't fall behind our friends who are training under Lord Hokage himself." The three share a chuckle as their conversation continues. Over the next 2 hours, Jonin instructors arrive one by one to collect their teams. Eventually, only teams 7 and 9 remain. The two groups decide to sit together, chatting as they wait. Tsunade suddenly brings up an interesting question. "Do you think Hiruzen sensei and Danzo sensei will have us train together or take on joint missions?" Before anyone can respond, a familiar voice answers, "That's a great question, Tsunade-chan. There's a good chance of joint missions, though I'm not sure about training sessions. What do you think, Danzo?" The 6 Jonin turn to see 2 men standing in the doorway. The first is instantly recognizable. His face is carved into the Hokage monument, and he gave a speech on their first day at the academy. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage of the Leaf and a legendary shinobi, has changed little over the past 2 years. Now 25 years old, the lines under his eyes are more pronounced, but his spiky hair and short goatee remain the same. He wears a simple black outfit, black pants tucked into mesh armor over his shins, a long-sleeved black kimono shirt with white trim at the collar, and mesh armor underneath for added protection. The second man, however, is unfamiliar to most of them. He has a serious demeanor, a sharp gaze, and an X-shaped scar on his chin. His shaggy black hair falls just above his eyes, and his brown eyes have a keen, hawk-like focus. Dressed in a black bodysuit with wrist and shin guards, his headband is properly tied around his forehead. Though only slightly taller than Sarutobi, his presence is commanding. This is Danzo Shimura, the enigmatic leader of Team 9. The experienced shinobi considers the question before answering. I believe both teams would benefit from occasional sparring sessions, perhaps once a month. As for joint missions, those will be inevitable, considering that as Hokage, you cannot leave the village freely. He then turns to the 6 Genin. Team 9, meet me at Training Ground 9 in 5 minutes. With that, he swiftly vanishes using the body flicker technique. Naruko, Sakumo, and Izumi exchange glances before following his lead, bidding farewell to their friends before disappearing in a blur. Hiruzen watches them go, then smiles at his own team. Alright, Team 7, meet me at Training Ground 7. We'll discuss what comes next there. With that, he, too, vanishes, and his team quickly follows suit. Training Ground 9. 2 minutes later. The 3 Genin of Team 9 arrived at Training Ground 9 precisely 2 minutes after Danzo. The older man nodded in approval. Alright, now that you're here, let's begin with introductions. I want to hear your names, interests, dislikes, current skills, and goals for the future. I'll go first. The 3 young shinobi nodded attentively as he continued. My name, as you already know, is Danzo Shimura. I am a Jonin of the Hidden Leaf Village and a former Anbu captain. My interests include training, the village, and my fiancée. My dislikes are laziness, betrayal against the village, and the fact that Hiruzen always seems one step ahead of me. As for my abilities, I'll let you figure those out in time. However, I will say that my primary elemental affinity is wind. As for my future aspirations, I want to see the village thrive. The Genin absorbed his words, with Naruko thinking to herself, so, he hasn't become overly rigid in his ideology yet. That's good. Maybe my team and I can help shape his outlook for the better. Her thoughts were interrupted when Danzo gestured toward Sakumo. You're next, Silver. The silver-haired boy frowned slightly at the nickname but introduced himself. My name is Sakumo Hatake, heir to the Hatake clan. My interests are training, learning new kenjutsu stances, spicy foods, and spending time with my friends. My dislikes include overly sweet foods, those who mistreat my friends, and anyone who disrespects the art of kenjutsu. As for my skills, I'm quite accurate with kunai and shuriken, but beyond that, I think I'll keep the rest a mystery for now. Danzo nodded in approval before turning to Izumi. You're next, Uchiha. The dark-haired girl gave a small scowl before responding. My name is Izumi Uchiha, a member of the Uchiha clan. I enjoy training, studying genjutsu and medical ninjutsu, eating dengo, flower arranging, and spending time with my new friends. My dislikes include arrogance, especially within my own clan, those who underestimate women, and people who dismiss the value of genjutsu. As for my skills, I'll follow your example, sensei, and let you figure them out on your own. As for my future goals, I want to become an extraordinary kunoichi, leave a lasting legacy as a master of genjutsu, and one day have a family with someone I love. Danzo chuckled at her confidence before turning to the last member of the team. And now, you, Red. Instead of looking annoyed by the nickname, Naruko simply smiled and began her introduction. My name is Naruko Uzumaki. I'm a member of the Uzumaki clan, as well as part of the Senju family. I love ramen, training, gardening, my friends, and the village. My dislikes include waiting 3 minutes for ramen to cook, people who belittle others to make themselves feel superior, and those who carelessly harm nature. My dream is to bring peace to the elemental nations through understanding and shared goals, and eventually, to have a family of my own. Danzo blinked at her words, surprised by the conviction behind them. However, he scoffed slightly. Peace through understanding and shared goals? That's quite an ambitious dream, Uzumaki-san. But in the world we live in, that seems impossible. Also, I noticed you didn't mention your skills. Naruko shook her head with a confident smile. You're free to believe what you like, but I'll prove you wrong. And as for my skills, I'll keep those a secret for now. Sakumo and Izumi chuckled at her response, while Danzo looked thoughtful. However, he quickly refocused. Alright, you've all passed the first part of your True Genin test. Keeping your abilities hidden is an essential skill for any shinobi. However, that was just the preliminary round. Now, we begin the real test. Sakumo and Izumi exchanged puzzled looks before Izumi asked, what do you mean by real Genin test? I thought we already passed the test back at the academy. Danzo smirked. That test only determined who had the potential to become a ninja. The real Jinan test is administered by Jonin instructors to separate those who are truly ready from those who are not. Out of all the academy graduates, 66% will fail this test. Only 33% will move forward and officially become Jinan. Now, let's see if you three have what it takes to be part of that group. Sakumo and Izumi were visibly taken aback, but Naruko didn't seem surprised in the slightest. Sakumo turned to his friend. "You don't look shocked at all, Naruko. Did you already know about this?" Naruko smirked. "I found out a while ago. Atama-san once told me about the test that his uncle, the second Hokage, gave to the third Hokage and his teammates when they became Jinan. I didn't mention it because it's supposed to be a surprise for new graduates." Danzo sighed, placing one hand on his hip and the other against his forehead protector. "I suppose I'll need to have a word with Atama-senpai about sharing classified information." Naruko shook her head. "Don't be too hard on him, Danzo-sensei. He had a little too much sake when he told me." Danzo exhaled in mild exasperation before refocusing on the test. "Alright, here's how this will work." He pulled out 2 scrolls from his pouch and held them up for the team to see. "Your task is to retrieve these 2 scrolls from me. Each one contains official registration forms for active shinobi." Izumi immediately noticed something odd. "But, sensei, there are only 2 scrolls." Danzo nodded. "That's correct, Uchiha-san. That means only 2 of you will pass. The one who does not obtain a scroll will be removed from the shinobi program permanently and will have their chakra sealed indefinitely." Sakumo and Izumi froze at the implication, while Naruko's expression remained steady. The real test had just begun. Each of them reacts with surprise, though unknown to everyone. Naruko's shock is only an act. Their instructor, Danzo, seems satisfied by their expressions and continues. "Your mission is to retrieve these scrolls from me before lunchtime. If you fail, one of you will be tied to the posts and will have to stay here during lunch. However, there's an additional challenge: you must locate me first before even attempting to take the scrolls. When you find me, come at me with your full strength. Your time starts now." With that, he drops a smoke bomb, causing the 3 young ninja to instinctively close their eyes and cover their noses. When the smoke clears, Danzo is gone. Sakumo and Izumi immediately prepare to head in different directions to track him down, but Naruko stops them. "Wait, guys." She calls out, making them pause and look at her curiously. "Think about it. Why would only 2 of us pass while the third fails? As far as I know, the Leaf Village operates in 4-person teams, not 3. The 2 6-year-olds consider her words, and Sakumo is the first to connect the dots. It's a teamwork test, he realizes. Danzo-sensei wants us to compete against each other so that we all end up failing. Naruko nods as Izumi adds, "Then we need to work together to track him down and retrieve the scrolls." Both boys agree, and the 3 fresh Jinan huddle together to strategize. Little do they know, Danzo is observing them from the surrounding trees, a smirk on his face. They caught on quickly. Then again, the Uzumaki and Hatake are 2 of the top prodigies in their class. Hiruzen was a fool to focus on so-called balance. He should have paired 2 of the strongest with the Senjueris. That would have been an unstoppable team. Oh well, his loss is my gain. Let's see how well they do against me. Just then, the 3 children break apart, and Naruko does something that catches Danzo off guard. Placing a finger on the ground, she closes her eyes and extends her senses, searching for his chakra signature. Danzo immediately recognizes the technique. It's something the second Hokage used to do. So the Uzumaki girl is a sensory type, huh? He thinks, impressed. After a few moments, Naruko smiles and opens her eyes, signaling her teammates with hand gestures to indicate their teacher's location. Without hesitation, the 3 vanish using the body flicker technique. A moment later, Danzo's instincts warn him of danger, and he quickly leaps from his perch just in time to see a massive fireball engulf the tree he was sitting on. Landing gracefully in the clearing, he immediately pulls out a kunai to deflect a flurry of shuriken. He counters by throwing his kunai toward the source of the attack, only to hear the metallic thunk of his blade striking wood. "Smart move, used a substitution the moment I threw my kunai." From the river, he suddenly hears Naruko's voice. "Water release, raging waves." A torrent of water surges from her mouth, rushing toward him like a waterfall. Without missing a beat, Danzo speeds through hand seals and takes a deep breath. "Wind release, vacuum wave." He exhales a compressed blade of wind that slices through the oncoming water, neutralizing the attack. However, he barely has time to recover before all 3 students rush in, engaging him in close combat. Danzo smirks internally as he watches them work together seamlessly. While two of them keep up relentless pressure, the third attempts to snatch the scrolls from his pouch. However, he quickly counters by maneuvering one of the attackers into the would-be thief's path, disrupting their attempt. After nearly 20 minutes of fast-paced hand-to-hand combat, Izumi suddenly weaves hand seals and calls out. Demonic illusion, blazing mirage. Immediately, Danzo finds himself surrounded by roaring flames. Realizing it's a genjutsu, he swiftly disrupts his chakra flow and releases a powerful burst of energy, shattering the illusion. Just as he regains his bearings, he hears Naruko's voice call out. 100 crack strike. She charges at him with incredible speed, unleashing a flurry of punches so fast it looks like she has 100 fists. Danzo blocks her strikes with ease, but he notes that most mid-level chunin would struggle against her skill. He also notices something else: her wrist and ankle weights are gone, meaning she's even faster than before. As Naruko finishes her final strike and leaps back, her teammates join her with confident smiles. Danzo frowns at them. I don't know why you're smiling. You haven't even taken the scrolls from me yet. Izumi and Sakumo exchange knowing looks before each of them reaches into their pouches, pulling out the very scrolls Danzo had been guarding. Danzo's eyes widen as he quickly checks his own pouch, empty. Sakumo smirks. You were saying, Danzo-sensei? Looks like you were too focused on Naruko and forgot that it was 3 against 1. Danzo lets out a small chuckle, shaking his head. You got me there. I have to admit, your teamwork was impressive, especially yours, Uzumaki. But since Hatake and Izumi are the ones who retrieve the scrolls, that means they pass. And you fail. Naruko simply smiles, already prepared for whatever comes next. Danzo had expected that this moment would push Naruko to turn against her teammates. However, he was taken aback when they simply tossed the scrolls back to him. Izumi, standing confidently, spoke up, sorry, Danzo-sensei, but if Naruko doesn't pass, then neither do we. She's the one who kept us united, and most of our strategy came from her. So either we all pass, or none of us do. She ended her statement with a determined look. Danzo turned to Sakumo and asked, do you feel the same way, Hatake? The silver-haired boy gave a serious nod. Observing the three standing together unwaveringly, Danzo let out a sigh. All right then. You all pass. Their faces lit up with joy as they celebrated with a group high five. All right, settle down, Danzo said, watching their enthusiasm. Yes, you've passed. From this moment on, the 4 of us are officially Team Danzo. As you suspected, this was a test of teamwork. The reason so many fail is that they focus only on themselves instead of working together. They forget that the strength of the Hidden Leaf Village comes from teamwork, a principle set by the first Hokage. The trio nodded, absorbing his words as he continued, you have the rest of the day off. I need to report to Lord Hiruzen that your team has passed. Be here tomorrow at 6 a.m. for training. After lunch, we'll complete a few D-rank missions, then continue training before you head home for dinner. Now, go on. The 3 laughed and turned to leave when Danzo called out, Naruko, stay back for a moment. The red-haired girl looked puzzled but nodded. Turning to her friends, she said, you guys go ahead. I'll meet you at the Red Leaf to celebrate. They nodded and left while Naruko turned back to her instructor. What is it, Danzo-sensei? The Jonin regarded her seriously before speaking. I wanted to ask about your taijutsu style. I've never heard of a Hokuto style before. Where did you learn it, and what is its focus? I noticed you targeted specific areas with your strikes. Naruko blinked, impressed by his keen observation. It's actually called Hokuto Shinken. I learned it from a scroll in the Senju archives, thanks to Mito Obazen. It's an ancient style, dating back to before the Sage of the Six Paths. The technique revolves around striking 708 pressure points across the body, allowing it to either weaken an opponent or aid in healing. Danzo was surprised and intrigued by the description. The style seemed somewhat similar to the Hyuga clan's Gentle Fist, though it didn't focus on the chakra network. He nodded in approval. That's an impressive technique. I've also heard that you have affinities for all 5 chakra natures. While I can't train you in all of them, I can help with wind manipulation and some wind-style jutsu, as well as fire manipulation since it's my secondary element. You'll need to train in the others on your own. Naruko nodded, accepting the offer. Thank you, sensei. Is there anything else? Danzo shook his head, signaling that their discussion was over. With that, Naruko turned and ran off to meet her teammates. A few moments later, Danzo vanished using the body flicker technique, making his way to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office, 15 minutes later. All the Jonin instructors of the newly graduated Junon stood in the office of the third Hokage, though the leader himself had yet to arrive. Some were growing restless when, moments later, the 25-year-old Hokage suddenly appeared behind his desk using the body flicker technique. "Apologies for the delay," he said, offering a brief smile. "My test with Team 7 ran a little longer than expected. Let's begin. As I call your name, step forward and report whether your team passed or failed." He proceeded down the list, hearing that only Team 4 had passed among Teams 1 through 6. Then he reached Team 7. "Well, I'm happy to report that Team 7 passed, though just barely." The Jonin instructors listened attentively as he continued. For the initial test, which was the bell test, they only thought about themselves. Tsunade Senju and Orochimaru Hebi each managed to grab a bell, leaving Jiraiya tied to the stump. At that point, I failed them and presented a secondary test. I gave Orochimaru and Tsunade lunchboxes and instructed them not to share with Jiraiya, then disappeared to observe their actions. A few of the Jonin smirked knowingly, recognizing the lesson. In the end, they passed by choosing to share their food with their teammate, understanding that teamwork is essential. And so, Team Hiruzen is now officially formed. With that, the meeting continued as the Jonin instructors finalized their reports. Everyone was surprised to hear this, except for Danzo, who had anticipated that the instructor would not fail the granddaughter of the founder or the academy's third prodigy. Following that, Team 8's sensei announced that their team had not passed, leading to Danzo's turn to speak. Team 9 passed with flying colors, he stated, which immediately caught everyone's attention. It was well known that Danzo had never passed a team before, prompting the third Hokage, Sarutobi, to ask, "Really, Danzo? That's quite unexpected given your usual standards. How exactly did they pass your test?" The dark-haired man leaned against the wall, arms crossed, before explaining, "They understood the purpose of the test from the very beginning." Uzumaki grasped it almost immediately and helped the other two reach the same conclusion. I was also surprised to discover that Uzumaki possesses sensory abilities, similar to the second Hokage, which allowed them to locate me with ease. From there, they demonstrated remarkable teamwork. First, the Uchiha girl forced me out of my hiding spot with a fireball jutsu. Then, the Hatake boy attempted to catch me off guard with shuriken, which I deflected with a kunai before countering. However, he managed to evade my attack using a well-timed substitution technique, an impressive use of strategy. At this, several individuals chuckled, acknowledging the effectiveness of the classic substitution technique. Danzo cleared his throat before continuing. Next, Uzumaki utilized one of her 5 elemental affinities, launching a C-rank water jutsu at me, which I countered with a B-rank wind jutsu. They followed up with a coordinated taijutsu offensive, where 2 members kept me engaged while the third attempted to retrieve the scrolls from my possession. When that plan didn't succeed, the Uchiha cast a genjutsu, making it appear as though I was surrounded by flames. Though I dispelled it quickly, it provided Uzumaki enough time to set up a well-structured taijutsu maneuver. As I was focused on blocking Uzumaki's strikes, I momentarily lost track of the other 2, which gave them the opportunity to retrieve the scrolls. When I told them that Uzumaki had failed, they immediately returned the scrolls and insisted that either they all passed or they all failed together. Their teamwork and loyalty to one another earned them a passing grade. From this moment forward, Team Danzo is officially recognized. The room fell into a momentary silence, filled with both surprise and admiration at their accomplishment. Danzo then turned to Sarutobi. "Hiruzen, I have to say, you made an interesting choice by not grouping all of the top prodigies together. That would have been an incredibly formidable team. Still, the 2 prodigies I have, along with the second highest ranked female student, are shaping up to be an impressive unit. I'm actually looking forward to training them." The third Hokage smiled at this. "I'm glad to hear that, Danzo. I look forward to our first joint training session. It will be interesting to see who produces the stronger team." After that, the evaluation moved to the final team, Team 10, which, as expected, had not passed. Once all the announcements were concluded, Sarutobi dismissed everyone except Danzo. As Danzo remained in the room, gazing at his former friend and rival, he briefly recalled their more carefree days before shaking off the nostalgia. Sarutobi addressed him with a serious tone. "Danzo, I want you to truly get to know your students. Build a bond with them, guide them along the right path, and serve as a mentor they can rely on. Don't remain distant or treat them as mere tools. Remember, every shinobi is an individual with their own reasons for fighting." Danzo, who was also in his mid-20s, nodded in understanding. "Don't worry, Hiruzen. If I'm taking the time to train these students, I intend to do it properly. You focus on your own team, just be ready to help them recover from their inevitable defeat in a month. Seeing that there was nothing more to discuss, Sarutobi simply nodded, and with that, Danzo disappeared using the body flicker technique. Left alone, the Hokage turned back to his paperwork, already considering the best training regimen for his own team as they prepared for the challenges ahead. 3 months later. Training Ground 9. It has been 3 months since the team placements and the True Genin tests. In that time, both Teams 7 and 9 have continued to grow as young shinobi. Team 9, under the guidance of Danzo, has been following a structured and rigorous training schedule. Every morning, except on Saturdays and Sundays, they gather at Training Ground 9 for their morning routine. Their training begins with a warm-up consisting of push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, squats, chin-ups, and running laps around the training ground. Afterward, they engage in a group spar that focuses strictly on taijutsu. Following this, they take an hour-long break before moving on to refining their techniques. First, they revisit their taijutsu, correcting any mistakes from the earlier spar, before advancing to the next set of kata in their individual fighting styles. Next is kenjutsu training. This initially posed a challenge for Izumi, as she had never wielded a sword before. Upon Danzo's advice, she sought guidance from her uncle, Kagami, who helped her find a kenjutsu style that suited her. The next day, she arrived with dual kadachi and an old kenjutsu style known as Kadachi Nito Ryu, double kadachi style. Since then, she has been steadily improving, while her teammates have also been refining their respective swordsmanship skills. After kenjutsu, they move on to ninjutsu training. Danzo believes that in order to properly wield elemental ninjutsu, one must first develop a deep understanding of the element itself. Following this principle, he has been teaching them the basics of elemental manipulation. Each team member has a different exercise tailored to their affinity. Naruko practices slicing a leaf in half using wind chakra. Izumi focuses on burning a leaf from the center by converting her chakra into pure heat. Sakumo works on making a leaf crumple between his hands by channeling lightning chakra. Their progress has been impressive. Naruko has managed to cut 3/4 of the leaf, Izumi has burned half of hers, and Sakumo has successfully crumpled most of his. Additionally, each of them has learned 3C rank elemental jutsu, further expanding their skill sets. Following ninjutsu, they train in genjutsu. This is an area where Izumi excels, particularly after awakening her Sharingan. At the end of the first month of training, Danzo decided it was time for her to activate her clan's dojutsu. He enlisted members of his former Anbu team to stage an ambush on her way home, making the situation feel as real as possible. The plan succeeded, and that night, Izumi awakened her Sharingan. Since then, her aptitude in genjutsu has significantly increased, though she has chosen not to learn new techniques relying solely on her dojutsu. Naruko and Sakumo, on the other hand, have only grasped the basics, suggesting that genjutsu may not be their strong suit. After genjutsu training, they break for lunch before taking on D-rank missions. Naruko has her own thoughts about these assignments, often calling them unnecessary tasks that civilians should be handling themselves. These missions typically include painting fences, weeding gardens, walking dogs, and the most challenging of all, capturing the Fire Lady's cat, Sora. They've been assigned this mission 5 times, and each time, Naruko swears that Sora must be related to Tora, the infamous cat from her previous experiences. Like its predecessor, Sora seems to have a strong dislike for Naruko and Sakumo but is oddly calm when held by Izumi. Sakumo frequently comments that troublesome cats like Sora are the reason he prefers dogs. Once the missions are completed, they return to the training grounds for 2 additional hours of practice, focusing on teamwork and chakra control. Afterward, they head home for dinner and rest, preparing to repeat the routine the next day. On their days off, each team member pursues personal growth in different ways. Izumi dedicates time to improving her kenjutsu to match her teammates' skill levels. Sakumo spends time with his father, learning about his future responsibilities as the next head of the Hatake clan and caring for the puppies of their family's ninja dog summons. Naruko, meanwhile, continues her studies in Fuinjutsu under the careful mentorship of Mito. Recently, she received exciting news: she has reached level 2 in Fuinjutsu mastery. Although she is still 8 levels away from being considered a level 10 seal master, Mito tempered her excitement by explaining that she is about 18 levels away from reaching the level of an Uzumaki seal master. However, as motivation, Mito promised that once Naruko reaches level 10, she would share her brother-in-law's notes on a special spacetime ninjutsu he developed, confident that Naruko will be able to improve upon it when the time comes. Over the past 3 months, Teams 7 and 9 have also participated in 2 joint training sessions to assess their progress and the effectiveness of their instructors. Unfortunately for Team 7, they lost both sparring matches due to a lack of teamwork. While Team 9 operates as a well-coordinated unit, Team 7 often struggles with internal conflicts, especially between Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Tsunade tries to mediate between them, but her efforts are usually in vain, particularly when Jiraiya makes teasing remarks that result in her retaliating. Despite these setbacks, the training sessions have helped both teams recognize their strengths. The instructors immediately noticed that Naruko had a natural ability to take charge and lead. During the first session, after Team 7 lost, the group initially blamed one another. However, Naruko intervened, pointing out that they were all responsible and needed to improve their teamwork. She then guided them through training, offering advice on positioning and strategy. To further assess their abilities, the teams experimented with different combinations. In one match, Naruko was paired with Tsunade and Jiraiya, and her leadership played a crucial role in their victory against Orochimaru, Sakumo, and Izumi in a game of Capture the Flag. In another match, she was paired with Sakumo and Orochimaru, forming a team of 3 prodigies. The result was remarkable. They worked in perfect harmony, intuitively understanding each other's movements and strategies, leading them to another victory. Through these training sessions, both teams have gained valuable insights, refining their skills and learning the importance of teamwork. While Team 9 continues to excel in coordination, Team 7 is slowly improving, thanks in large part to Naruko's leadership and strategic thinking. Naruko was paired with the 2 girls, and once again, she led them to victory. Both teammates followed her guidance closely, especially Tsunade, who seemed particularly interested in her leadership. Finally, they placed Naruko on a team with Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Despite their usual rivalry, she managed to get them to work together as a team, securing a hard-earned win. Observing all of this, the instructors realized that among the 6, Naruko was undoubtedly the key player and the natural leader. Today, both teams were preparing for their 3rd training match in the past 3 months. Hiruzen and Danzo stood to the side, ready to begin the session. Each team huddled separately, discussing their strategies. Naruko laid out the plan for her teammates. "Alright, here's how this will go. Sakumo, I want you to focus on Orochimaru. Your taijutsu skills are about equal, but if it turns into a ninjutsu battle, your lightning style will counter his wind and vice versa." The silver-haired boy nodded. "Good thinking as always, Naruko. I was about to suggest the same thing. You know me well." Naruko smiled before turning to Izumi. "You'll take on Jiraiya. His biggest weakness is genjutsu, so hit him with one strong enough to keep him out of the fight. I'll handle Tsunade-chan. I know how to counter her taijutsu, and my element cancels hers out. When I get the chance, I'll place a paralysis seal on her. Even though she's part Uzumaki, she hasn't mastered Fuinjutsu yet." Izumi nodded in understanding. "Got it, Naruko. I have the perfect genjutsu to keep Jiraiya occupied. Just be careful, Tsunade-chan might not be happy about that seal." Naruko chuckled. "She'll forgive me by the end of the night, we're best friends, after all." Her teammates exchanged glances, thinking, more like she has a big crush on you and you're completely oblivious. With that, they broke apart and stood ready for the spar. Team 7, on the other hand, was less coordinated. Jiraiya could be heard loudly declaring, "I'm taking on Sakumo. Orochimaru, you can have Naruko, and Tsunade, you handle Izumi. Now let's go." His remarks made Orochimaru, Naruko, and Sakumo shake their heads, while Tsunade and Izumi frowned in irritation. However, before the blonde-haired girl could say anything, Jiraiya impatiently rushed forward toward his chosen opponent. Team 9 immediately sprang into action. Using pure speed, Sakumo and Naruko vanished from their positions and reappeared in front of Orochimaru and Tsunade, engaging them in close combat. Jiraiya groaned in frustration. "Oh, come on. I said I wanted to fight Sakumo." Just then, he felt a light tap on his shoulder. A shiver ran down his spine as he turned to see Izumi smiling sweetly at him, her Sharingan activated. The moment he made eye contact, she whispered, "Demonic illusion, unshakable nightmare." In an instant, Jiraiya was trapped in a genjutsu. His eyes widened as he experienced a surreal and overwhelming illusion. Within moments, he let out a startled yell and collapsed, mumbling incoherently. Izumi smirked in satisfaction before turning away, Tsunade cheering, "Nice work, Izumi-chan." Nearby, Danzo chuckled at Jiraiya's misfortune, while Hiruzen sighed and rubbed his temples. Why does Jiraiya-kun always act so recklessly? Meanwhile, Naruko and Tsunade continued their taijutsu match, appearing evenly matched. Tsunade grinned. You've been keeping up with your training, Naruko-chan. But I thought you'd be even better by now. Naruko smirked. Oh? You want to see what I can really do, Su-chan? The sudden teasing caught Tsunade off guard, causing her to hesitate mid-strike. Naruko seized the opportunity, stepping in closer and pulling something from her hip pouch. Tsunade tensed, but her momentary concern faded when she saw it was just a piece of paper. However, before she could react, Naruko quickly placed the paper on her and formed a hand seal. Paralysis seal, activate. Tsunade gasped as she found herself unable to move. Naruko grinned triumphantly, ready to finish the match. As soon as she speaks, the paper seal on her chest activates, glowing with chakra before releasing a controlled surge that temporarily disrupts her nervous system. Her body freezes in place, rendering her unable to move. Narrowing her eyes at Naruko, she protests, "That's not fair, Naruko-kun. You distracted me just to use Fuinjutsu against me. Release me right now." Naruko scratches the back of her head with a sheepish smile. "Sorry, Tsunade-chan, but I can't do that, not until Sakumo finishes with Orochimaru. Besides, you should know by now that fairness doesn't really exist in the world of shinobi. Just hang tight for a little longer, and I'll remove the seal." Tsunade continues to glare but has little choice but to wait. However, her attention quickly shifts to the ongoing battle between Orochimaru and Sakumo. The silver-haired boy now holds his tanto at Orochimaru's throat, signaling the end of the fight. "You have no other option, Orochimaru. Surrender." Understanding that further resistance is futile, Orochimaru sighs. "You're right, Sakumo-san. I yield." Sakumo smiles slightly before withdrawing his blade and extending a hand to help Orochimaru to his feet. Meanwhile, Naruko forms the ram seal and declares, "Paralysis seal, release." The glowing mark on Tsunade's chest fades and peels away, allowing her to move freely once more. In another corner of the training ground, Izumi is reviving Jiraiya by pouring cold water over his head. The two instructors observe their students with serious expressions, but before Hiruzen can address them, a masked Anbu kneels before him. "Hokage-sama, we have an urgent situation." Hiruzen immediately shifts into command mode. "Report." The Anbu responds without hesitation. "Our scouts have identified a large group of bandits heading toward Tanzaku town. The estimated number is at least 200. Additionally, they appear to be led by a rogue shinobi from Iwagakure." Hiruzen processes this information before asking, "Who is the missing nin, and what is their threat level?" "His name is Daichi Kurotetsu. He is classified as an A-rank shinobi, with skills comparable to a jonin. The mayor of Tanzaku town has formally requested immediate assistance." Before the Hokage can respond, Danzo steps forward. "Hokage-sama, my team and I are prepared to assist Tanzaku town and handle the threat." Hiruzen eyes his old friend carefully. "Are you certain, Danzo? This is classified as a B-rank mission, and your team consists of fresh academy graduates." Danzo nods firmly. "Yes, I am sure. In fact, we can divide it into two objectives, a C-rank mission for the Jinan, focusing on defending the town from the bandits, and a B-rank mission for myself, dealing with Kurotetsu directly." The third Hokage considers the proposal before nodding in agreement. "Very well. However, I am assigning both teams 7 and 9 to this mission. It is time my students gain experience outside the village walls as well." Danzo accepts the decision and turns to the teams. "All right, listen up. Your mission is to defend Tanzaku town from the bandits and eliminate any threats that endanger civilians. As for me, I will track down and neutralize Kurotetsu. We set out in 2 hours, prepare accordingly." "Dismissed." The young shinobi respond with a determined yes. Before hurrying off to gather their gear. As the students depart, Hiruzen addresses Danzo with a serious expression, his tone carrying the weight of his authority. "Their safety is in your hands, Danzo. Make sure they return unharmed. If any of them are seriously injured, I will personally remind you why I am called the professor." Danzo remains composed, giving a slight nod. "You have nothing to worry about, Hiruzen. The children will be perfectly safe. I won't allow them anywhere near my battle with Kurotetsu, and as for the bandits, they are no real challenge for trained shinobi, even newly graduated ones." Hiruzen studies him for a moment before nodding in acknowledgement. With that, Danzo disappears in a flicker of movement, heading off to make final preparations. Left alone, the third Hokage sighs and turns toward his office. "Perhaps I should assign an additional jonin to oversee the mission." If Mito hears that Tsunade and Naruko were sent on a C-rank mission without extra supervision, I'll never hear the end of it. With that thought, he vanishes in a blur, returning to his desk to make the necessary arrangements. Last time. Sarutobi nodded thoughtfully as his former comrade disappeared in a swift body flicker to prepare for the upcoming mission. The man known as the Third Hokage sighed, realizing he needed to return to his office to complete paperwork and brace himself for Mito's inevitable visit. She would undoubtedly express her concerns about Tsunade and Naruko being assigned a C-rank mission. Perhaps I can reassure her by assigning an additional Jonin to oversee both teams while Danzo carries out his own mission, he mused. The last thing he needed was to endure the formidable presence of the Senju matriarch, especially when paired with the legendary Uzumaki determination. With that thought in mind, he swiftly body flickered back to his office, hoping all would proceed smoothly. Leaf Village, Northern Gate. 2 hours later. 6 young Genin stood near the village's northern gate, waiting for Danzo's arrival. They didn't have to wait long before the dark-haired shinobi appeared in a blur of movement. However, he wasn't alone. Accompanying him was a woman of striking elegance. She stood at 5 feet 3 inches, with long black hair styled into twin buns, secured with a traditional Japanese hairpin adorned with dangling pearls. Her dark eyes carried a sharp yet kind gaze. Her shinobi attire consisted of a simple black ensemble, complemented by a gray breastplate, arm guards, fishnet stockings beneath a knee-length skirt, a pouch secured at her back, and standard shinobi sandals. The presence of this kunoichi was well known to Naruko, Tsunade, and even Izumi. She had been a student of Tobirama Senju, a teammate of Hiruzen Sarutobi, and a close associate of Kagami Uchiha. Her name was Koharu Utatane. Naruko's face lit up with a smile upon seeing her. Koharu-san. What brings you here? She asked cheerfully. Koharu returned the smile, albeit with a subtle grace. Naruko, how many times have I told you not to be so formal with me? She teased before continuing. As for why I'm here, Hiruzen has decided that 6 newly graduated Genin shouldn't be left unsupervised on a C-rank mission. He assigned me to oversee your group and provide additional training while we safeguard Tanzaku Town. At this announcement, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Sakumo let out exasperated sighs, while Tsunade and Izumi exchanged pleased smiles. Naruko simply chuckled, all right, Koharu 1E-san. Let me guess, Mito Obasan had a few words with Hiruzen ni about our mission, and he decided to assign you as our guardian? Koharu giggled at the remark, while Danzo gave a small chuckle before confirming, you've got it exactly right, Naruko. Though, even if Mito-sama hadn't voiced her concerns, Hiruzen would have still appointed another Jonin as a precaution. The group collectively nodded in understanding. Despite their advanced training, they were still only 6 years old, 7 in Tsunade and Izumi's case. Danzo then cleared his throat and addressed them in a firm yet instructive tone. All right, listen up. You all know your mission. Your team, along with Koharu, will be responsible for protecting Tanzaku Town from bandits. If you come across any threats, neutralize them accordingly. Until I return from my own assignment, you are to follow Koharu's instructions as you would mine or Hiruzen's. Is that understood? A resounding yes, Danzo-sensei. Echoed from the Genin, signaling their readiness. Danzo nodded in approval. Good. Let's move out. Tanzaku Town is 6 hours away by tree hopping. Without further delay, the group of 8 moved swiftly, leaping into the trees. Danzo led at the front, with Naruko and Izumi positioned at the center, and Sakumo guarding the rear. Similarly, Koharu led Team 7, with Tsunade and Orochimaru in the middle, and Jiraiya bringing up the rear. Their journey had begun. Tanzaku Town gates, 6 hours later. After nearly 6 hours of continuous travel, the group of 7 finally arrived at the towering gates of Tanzaku Town. The reason they were now a group of 7 was that, an hour prior, Danzo had branched off to begin his own mission. As the Leaf Shinobi landed in front of the entrance, they startled the guards, who immediately pointed their spears in defense. One of the guards, standing to the left, called out. State your names and your purpose. Koharu stepped forward, meeting the nervous man's gaze with a calm yet firm expression. We are the Leaf Shinobi summoned to assist with the recent bandit problem. The guards, finally taking note of the symbols on their forehead protectors, visibly relaxed. The second guard, standing to the right, let out a breath of relief. Thank goodness you've arrived. I hope I don't offend when I say this, but we were expecting much older shinobi, more like yourself, not such young individuals. The black-haired woman gave a slight chuckle at this. These so-called young individuals are highly trained warriors. The bandits won't be a challenge for them. If it reassures you, I am a Jonin-level kunoichi, personally trained by the second Hokage himself. At the mention of Tobarama Senju, the two men immediately brightened. His reputation as a legendary shinobi was well known throughout the Land of Fire. The first guard spoke again. That's great news. Please, go ahead. The mayor is expecting you. With a nod, Koharu signaled for the Jinan to follow as they made their way into the town. Soon, they arrived at the mayor's residence, where the town leader welcomed them with urgency. He explained that the bandits always attacked under the cover of night and that the town's militia, though trained by the Fire Lord's samurai, lacked the experience to handle such an overwhelming force. Koharu inclined her head in understanding. Rest assured, sir. My team and I will ensure the town's safety. Additionally, my comrade is currently handling the matter of their shinobi leader. Once their leader is taken care of, I suspect the remaining bandits will lose much of their coordination and control. Hearing this, the mayor exhaled a sigh of relief. With that, the kunoichi led the 6 Jinan back into the streets. Once they were at a reasonable distance, she turned to them with a decisive expression. Here's how we'll proceed. You will be divided into 3 teams of 2, and each team will guard a different gate, she instructed. The Jinan nodded in understanding as she continued. Sakumo and Jiraiya, you two will take the eastern gate. Orochimaru and Izumi, you'll guard the western gate. Naruko and Tsunade, you'll be stationed at the southern gate. I will personally take the northern gate. Additionally, I will send a shadow clone to check in on each of you every hour. Now, move out. Without hesitation, the young shinobi split into their designated pairs and made their way to their assigned posts. Southern gate, keeping watch. Naruko and Tsunade arrived at the southern gate, informing the station guards of their presence. Once the guards recognized them as Leaf Jinan, they relaxed slightly. The 2 kunoichi then used their chakra to scale the walls and perched themselves at the top, attentively watching for any unusual movement. As they kept their vigil, they decided to replenish their energy by eating some rations, ensuring their chakra levels remained stable. After nearly 2 hours of quiet observation, Tsunade broke the silence. Hey, Naruko, what do you think it would be like to have a unique ability passed down through a bloodline? The red-haired kunoichi tilted her head slightly, contemplating the question before responding with one of her own. What made you think about that, Tsunade? It's an interesting topic to bring up in the middle of a mission. Tsunade hesitated for a moment before answering. I've always wondered what it would be like. I was a little disappointed when I didn't inherit my grandfather's abilities. And now, my little brother might develop them, which, I guess, makes me feel a certain way. You also have a teammate with a bloodline ability, and I imagine it gives her an advantage. Naruko sighed, shaking her head with a thoughtful expression. A bloodline ability doesn't define a shinobi. Its value is determined by the effort and skill of the person using it. Tsunade listened intently as Naruko continued. Take the first Hokage's would release, for example. It became legendary because he was an exceptional shinobi, not just because of the ability itself. He dedicated countless hours to mastering it and ensured it complemented his other skills. But he didn't stop there. He also trained in taijutsu, weapon techniques, medical ninjutsu, and even genjutsu. Strength isn't about having an ability, it's about how much effort you put into honing your skills. Tsunade took in Naruko's words with admiration. The wisdom behind them was impressive. You speak as if you've experienced this firsthand, Naruko, she observed curiously. Naruko simply smiled, her eyes focused on the horizon as they continued their watch. The red-haired girl chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of her head. Well, I kind of do. I'm going to tell you something that no one else knows, and I need you to promise me you won't tell anyone until I'm ready to share it myself. Tsunade nodded firmly. Of course. You're my best friend, so any secret you share with me stays safe. Naruko smiled warmly. Thank you, Tsunade-chan. I know about special abilities because I have 3 of them. I discovered it after our elemental affinity tests in the academy last year. I can combine my fire element with my earth and water elements to create lava and boiling mist. Also, I can turn my chakra into a magnetic force. I haven't really trained with them much since I don't know where to start, so they're not very strong yet. Tsunade's eyes widened in amazement. If she was hearing correctly, Naruko had not 1 but 3 unique abilities. She quickly fired off questions, unable to contain her curiosity. You have 3? How? Did your parents have abilities like this? What can you do with them? Naruko chuckled at her enthusiasm and placed her hands on her friend's shoulders. Calm down, Tsunade-chan. Take a deep breath, and I'll explain everything. The blonde took a deep breath, composing herself, and nodded for Naruko to continue. Okay, first, yes, I have 3 abilities. I'm not entirely sure how, but I think it might be connected to my 5 elemental affinities. As far as I know, neither of my parents had any of these abilities, aside from the Uzumaki clan's natural longevity and skill in sealing techniques. As for what I can do with them, not much yet. The only one I can use at the moment is magnet release, and even then, I can only magnetize my kunai so they return to my hand if they're within 30 feet. Tsunade looked completely amazed. That's incredible. It sounds really useful. You won't lose your kunai, and you could even catch an opponent off guard by pulling one away at the last second. Naruko nodded in agreement, but before she could say more, she noticed movement from the corner of her eye. Turning her attention toward the trees, she spotted a large group emerging from the forest. She quickly assessed their numbers, around 30. She turned to Tsunade with a focused expression. Looks like we've got company. Are you ready for this, Tsunade-chan? The blonde-haired girl swallowed but stood her ground. Yes. But do you think we can handle that many by ourselves? Maybe we should send a chakra flare to call for backup. Naruko shook her head. There's no time for that. But if it helps, I'll send a clone to inform Koharu-ne of the situation. Tsunade nodded, and Naruko quickly formed a hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu. With a puff of smoke, an identical clone appeared, gave a quick salute, and rushed off toward the village. With that taken care of, they turned their attention back to the approaching group, who had yet to notice them. A plan quickly formed in Naruko's mind. We have the element of surprise. They're expecting to face regular militia, not shinobi. Let's throw some kunai with paper seals to start things off, then follow up with jutsu. Tsunade nodded in agreement. They each took out a few kunai, attaching seals created by Naruko herself, and tossed them into the middle of the group. The weapons landed precisely where intended. One of the bandits perked up, hearing an unfamiliar noise. Hey, do you hear that? What is that sound? Another one glanced around. Yeah, what's going on? A moment later, the seals activated, creating a controlled explosion that sent the group scattering in shock. Naruko and Tsunade wasted no time. The redhead quickly formed hand seals. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet. She exhaled a stream of fire, which shaped itself into a dragon before splitting into 3 smaller flames, advancing from multiple directions. The flames caused a sudden burst of light and energy, disrupting the group's coordination. Tsunade followed up, performing her own technique. Lightning release, false darkness spear. A spear of lightning shot from her hands, splitting into multiple smaller bolts that spread across the field, stunning their opponents and forcing them to retreat further. The 2 Genin stood their ground, ready for whatever came next. Their teamwork and strategy had given them the upper hand, and they knew that together, they could handle whatever challenges lay ahead. With a significant portion of their group defeated, the remaining bandits quickly realize that retreat is their best option. One of them shouts in alarm, the town hired shinobi. We need to fall back. The boss has to hear about this. Hearing this, Naruko understands she can't allow them to escape. Without hesitation, she uses the body flicker technique, reappearing directly in their path as they attempt to flee into the forest. Upon seeing that one of their pursuers is just a young girl, the bandits hesitate before bursting into laughter. The tallest among them, towering at 7 feet, steps forward and smirks. What's this? They're sending children to fight their battles now? What kind of warriors hide behind kids like this? He crosses his arms, looking down at her. Tell me, little girl, do you really think you stand a chance? You should have stayed behind the walls. Naruko remained silent, shifting into a sword-drawing stance, her right hand resting on the hilt of her katana. The bandit leader frowns at her lack of response, his amusement quickly turning into frustration. All right then, if you're so confident, get her. He orders. The group charges at the 6-year-old, but she remains completely calm. With a single motion, she clicks her sword slightly out of its sheath and murmurs, Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, Ryukensen Tsumuji. Dragon coiling flash, whirl. In an instant, she steps forward, drawing her blade while spinning at a speed beyond the bandit's ability to react. Moving like a whirlwind, she passes through them before stopping gracefully behind them. As she calmly resheathes her sword with a soft click, the bandits collapse to the ground, completely incapacitated. Naruko then flickers back to Tsunade, who is visibly shaken. She gently rubs her friend's back in reassurance. It's okay, Tsunade-chan. Just breathe slowly. The first time is always the hardest, she says in a soothing tone. Tsunade takes a deep breath, accepting the water canteen Naruko offers. She rinses her mouth, spits out the water, and then takes another sip before swallowing. After composing herself, she turns to the red-haired girl with a puzzled expression. "How are you so calm?" Tsunade asks. "You fought more than I did, and you even used your katana in battle." Naruko's expression darkens slightly. "I've seen things before," she admits. "I once found my parents after something happened to them. At the time, I was overwhelmed, I couldn't stop crying. But I had to push through and take care of everything myself. It changed me." Before the conversation can continue, Koharu suddenly appears with a body flicker. She surveys the area, noting the subdued bandits, and nods in approval. "Looks like you two handled this group well. Good work," she commends. Naruko and Tsunade exchange pleased smiles before Naruko asks, "This group? Are you saying there were more?" Koharu confirms with a nod. "Yes. All the town's gates were attacked. The group at my gate was only 10, while 15 attacked the west, and 20 went for the southern gate." Tsunade looks surprised, but Naruko narrows her eyes, thinking deeply. What was the strategy behind this? She mutters. It makes sense to send smaller groups as distractions if they wanted to launch a major assault elsewhere. But our gate was hit by 30 bandits, and now they've all been taken out. That only adds up to 55 attackers out of the estimated 200. Why sacrifice so many? The other two kunoichi watch as Naruko pieces the puzzle together. Finally, her eyes widen in realization. Unless this was just a test, she concludes. They wanted to see if the town had hired shinobi, and if so, how strong we were. This wasn't a full attack, it was a scouting mission to gauge our abilities and find weaknesses. Koharu smiles, impressed. That was my thought as well, Naruko. Let's regroup with the others and plan our next move. Nodding, the three of them use the body flicker technique to meet the rest of their team. Their meeting place is a hotel where Koharu has arranged accommodations for their mission. Upon arrival, they find their 4 teammates gathered, along with an unexpected visitor. Naruko's face lights up with recognition. Danzo-sensei. What are you doing here? Standing among them is Danzo, accompanied by Orochimaru, Sakumo, Izumi, and Jiraiya. He appears unshaken, though there's a serious glint in his eyes. I ran into some complications while tracking my target, he explains. I located him, but he was deep in the bandit camp, surrounded by over 100 armed men. On top of that, Kurotetsu has gained backup, 2 additional missing nin, both at least Chunin level and likely C rank in skill. Now, I could handle those 3 alone, but against them and 100 bandits? Even I have my limits. That's why I came back. The group quickly understands his reasoning. He returned to join forces with them so they could eliminate the threats efficiently. Gathering around a table in the hotel's cafeteria, they begin strategizing. The plan is straightforward. Danzo and Koharu will engage the 3 missing nin, while the rest of the team will handle the bandits. Using shuriken, kunai, ninja wire, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and smoke screens, they will surround the camp from 4 sides and launch a coordinated surprise attack. With their strategy finalized, Danzo instructs them to rest for the night. We'll move out at first light, he states firmly. Following his advice, the team heads to their assigned rooms, one for the boys, and one for the girls, preparing themselves for the decisive battle ahead. Hanzaku Town, Eastern Gate. Dawn, the next day. As the sun rises, 2 teams stand outside the eastern gate of Tanzaku Town, performing final checks on their supplies. Once they confirm they have everything they need, they set off swiftly through the trees toward their destination. After about an hour of travel, they arrive near the perimeter of a bandit camp and split into 4 pairs. Koharu and Danzo take the southern approach, Jiraiya and Izumi move toward the east, Orochimaru and Naruko position themselves to the west, while Sakumo and Tsunade cover the north. Once they are all in position, Danzo gives a subtle signal, a crowing noise, indicating the start of their mission. Jiraiya swiftly throws several kunai fitted with specialized tags that attach to a group of tents. Izumi moves quickly, forming a series of hand seals before calling out, "Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu." A powerful orb of flames bursts forth, targeting the same area. Moments later, Jiraiya's tags activate, causing controlled bursts of energy that destabilize the structures. Izumi's fire technique follows, ensuring their targets are neutralized effectively. On the western side, Orochimaru and Naruko work together for a coordinated maneuver. Orochimaru calls out, "Wind release, Great Breakthrough," as he exhales a powerful gust of wind. At the same time, Naruko executes fire release, Fireball Jutsu. Her fire attack, initially smaller than Izumi's, is amplified by Orochimaru's wind, transforming into a sweeping wave of intense flames that spreads across the target area. Meanwhile, Sakumo and Tsunade focus on opponents who have awakened due to the commotion. As the bandits emerge from their tents, weapons drawn, the two launch a precise barrage of shuriken and kunai from multiple angles, effectively disarming and incapacitating several foes. Koharu and Danzo follow a similar strategy. Danzo utilizes wind release, vacuum serial waves, releasing multiple wind-based strikes that sweep through the battlefield with precision, while Koharu uses a blend of genjutsu and earth release techniques to control the battlefield, ensuring their opponents are swiftly subdued. However, the situation escalates when three rogue shinobi from the hidden rock village appear. Their leader is a towering man named Daichi Kurotetsu, standing at an imposing 6 feet 3 inches with a solid build, short brown hair, and a thick beard. He wears dark armor over his brown attire, exuding an air of confidence. Accompanying him are two skilled kunoichi known as the Storm Twins, Nezumi and Rijimi. The twins, standing at 5 feet 2 inches, have striking blue hair, with Nezumi sporting a bob cut while Rijimi's is styled in a traditional Heim cut. Both possess sharp green eyes and are known for their affinity with the rare storm release technique. Daichi's gaze lands on Danzo, and a smirk appears on his face. Well. It looks like the hidden leaf has sent its best to challenge me, he says in a deep, confident voice. I wonder how you'll hold up when my team puts your skills to the test. With tension rising, the young shinobi prepare for the next phase of their mission, knowing that their true challenge has only just begun. The dark-haired man smirked. I think you've taken one too many hits to the head, Kurotetsu. Look around, the camp is in ruins, your forces are scattered, and even now, my students are setting off smoke bombs and handling the remaining troublemakers. The only real threats left are you and those two warriors, and the three of you are up against me and Koharu. I can assure you, this battle won't end in your favor. As he spoke, his hands moved at remarkable speed, forming a series of hand seals. He took a deep breath and called out, wind release, vacuum sphere. Futon, Shinkigyoku. A barrage of small, swift air bullets shot out in all directions, most of them targeting Kurotetsu directly, while a few veered toward the twin warriors. Daichi reacted instantly, his own hands flashing through seals before he slammed them onto the ground. Earth release, earth-style wall. Doten, Doryuki. A massive rock barrier surged up, towering 20 feet high to shield him from the wind attack. The twins, however, were not as quick. Though they managed to evade most of the attack, each took a glancing hit, Nezumi on her right side, Rijimi on her left. Before they could fully regain their footing, Koharu closed the distance, pressing them with precise taijutsu strikes that kept them off balance. Meanwhile, Daichi leapt onto the top of his own wall, already forming more hand seals to counterattack. However, when his eyes searched for his opponent, the S-rank shinobi was nowhere to be seen. Before Daichi could react, a sudden force struck him from behind, a powerful kick sending him tumbling off the wall and crashing into the ground below. His armor absorbed most of the impact, allowing him to spring back up just in time to parry a swift strike from Danzo's tanto with his kunai. The two clashed, engaging in a fierce exchange of kenjutsu. Nezumi and Rijimi finally managed to put some distance between themselves and Koharu, taking advantage of a smoke bomb to obscure her vision. As soon as they were clear, they moved in perfect unison, forming hand seals together before clasping hands. Storm release, laser circus. Ranten, Reizusakasu. A radiant halo of energy formed between their hands before unleashing a storm of glowing beams toward Koharu. With a quick substitution, Koharu swapped places with a log just in time, combining it with the body flicker technique to reappear behind the twins. In one swift motion, she landed a well-placed kunai strike that incapacitated Rijimi, while Nezumi managed to retreat. Realizing what had happened, Nezumi's expression hardened as she glared at Koharu. How dare you? She was my sister, my other half. You'll regret this. Just as she moved to attack, she was suddenly frozen in place by an overwhelming surge of battle aura, radiating from Koharu like an invisible force pressing down on her. The leaf kunoichi advanced slowly, hands forming seals. You speak boldly, but strength is what truly defines a warrior. Allow me to show you the power of a true shinobi. With her final seal complete, she exhaled deeply. Fire release, flamethrower jutsu. Katen, Kane Hoshaki. A controlled stream of fire surged forth, engulfing the area where Nezumi stood. When the flames faded, Koharu retrieved 2 scrolls, one to seal the remains and another to store Rijimi's body, before turning to assess the battlefield. Danzo was nearing the end of his duel with Kurotetsu, the latter having lost his armor and showing clear signs of exhaustion. His movements were slower now, his injuries taking their toll. Around them, the remnants of the enemy forces had dwindled to about 20 men, who had gathered in the center of the camp, forming a defensive circle as they scanned their surroundings in fear. The strongest among them raised his sword. "Stay sharp. We can't let these shinobi overpower us. The moment you see one, strike first, and don't let up." His men exchanged uncertain glances before nodding in reluctant agreement, bracing themselves for the battle ahead. A mission well accomplished. In the trees, 6 young shinobi gathered, observing the remaining bandits huddled together in fear. Jiraiya chuckled at the sight. "Look at them. A group of grown men nervous around a few kids. Guess there really is a difference between shinobi and civilians." Whack. Tsunade playfully knocked him on the head. "Don't get ahead of yourself. We're running low on kunai, shuriken, and chakra. Right now, most of us only have enough energy for one strong technique or a couple of smaller ones." The white-haired boy rubbed the back of his head and glanced at the blonde. Before he could respond, Naruko spoke up, cutting off what she knew would turn into a debate. "Tsunade's right, Jiraiya. Out of all of us, I think I have the most chakra left. I'm still about half full. So, here's what I'm thinking. Izumi, use your Sharingan to cast an enhanced genjutsu on them. Once they're caught, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru will use a combination attack on the left side. Sakumo and I will handle the right and center using kenjutsu." Everyone nodded in agreement, splitting up to carry out the plan. Izumi appeared in front of the bandits, surprising them with her sudden presence. Their leader laughed. "It's a little girl. Ha ha ha. Are you lost? Maybe we can help you find your family." The others chuckled along, but their laughter faded when they saw her eyes turn crimson, revealing 2 tomoe in each. With swift hand signs, she activated her technique. Sharingan Genjutsu, Demonic Illusion, Shackling Stakes. As soon as they made eye contact with her, they found themselves trapped in an illusion, their movements restricted. Their expressions shifted from amusement to shock as the illusion took hold. The rest of the team swiftly moved in, using precise techniques to disable the bandits and ensure they were no longer a threat. Within moments, the battle was over. Just in time, they turned their attention toward Danzo, who was engaged in his own fight. They watched as he expertly overpowered his opponent and sealed away an item in a scroll. With the enemies neutralized, Danzo gathered the group for their next task. "Alright, camps like this usually have a stash of weapons, gold, or even rare scrolls. I want all of you to check the remaining tents for anything valuable." "Yes, sir." The 6 responded in unison before splitting up to search the area. When they regrouped 10 minutes later, they had collected an assortment of weapons, 2 chests filled with gold, another containing gemstones, and a special chest Danzo had discovered. Kurotetsu had this in his tent. "It's full of jutsu scrolls, likely taken from shinobi he encountered," Danzo explained before sealing them safely into a storage scroll. With their mission complete, he turned to them with a small smile. "Let's head back to Tanzaku town. We'll clean up, have breakfast, and then report to the mayor about Kurotetsu's defeat. After that, we return to the Hidden Leaf to complete the mission process." A collective sigh of relief swept through the group. With that, they made their way back to town. Returning to town. Once back, they went straight to their hotel, ignoring the surprised looks from the staff. In their rooms, they took turns showering and changing into fresh outfits. Feeling refreshed, they regrouped in the lobby and set out to find a good place to eat. They settled on a cozy restaurant near the town's central castle, where they enjoyed a well-earned meal. Afterward, the younger shinobi returned to the hotel to organize their belongings, while the jonin headed to the mayor's house to report the mission's success. The mayor, upon hearing the news, bowed deeply in gratitude. "Thank you so much. Knowing my people no longer have to fear those bandits brings me great relief. Please send my regards to your Hokage." Danzo and Koharu acknowledged his words before heading back to the hotel. There, they found the young shinobi already waiting for them outside, ready to leave. Danzo chuckled. "Eager to get home to your families and your own beds? Just remember, once we're back, you'll have a short break from missions, but not from training." The group merely smiled, unfazed by the idea of continued practice. Koharu giggled. "Alright then, let's head back to the Leaf and report to Hiruzen." With that, they took off toward the village, their pace quickening as they leapt into the trees, eager to return home. Back at the Hidden Leaf village. 6 hours later. After traveling swiftly, they finally reached the gates of the Hidden Leaf village. A sense of relief washed over them as the familiar sights welcomed them home. The gate guards greeted them upon arrival. "Welcome back. How was the mission, Danzo-san?" Danzo gave a simple nod. "It went well. The Jinan performed beyond expectations. We're heading to the Hokage's office to report." The guard stepped aside, allowing them through. As they walked through the village, friendly greetings met them, especially for Tsunade, who was well known as the Senju heiress. A few minutes later, they arrived at the Hokage's office, where the secretary welcomed them with a warm smile before letting them in. Inside, Hiruzen Sarutobi's face brightened upon seeing them return safely. They stepped forward, and Danzo spoke for the group. "Hokage-sama, Team 7 and 9 reporting back from successful C and A rank missions." Sarutobi immediately shifted into leader mode. "I'm glad to see you all back in one piece. Now, give me the full report." The teams detailed their mission, explaining how they had handled the bandits. As they spoke, the Hokage's expression softened with pride. "You all did well," he said with a smile. The young shinobi exchanged glances, knowing that while the mission had been tough, they had grown stronger because of it. And with that, they completed another step in their journey as shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. As Danzo recounted his mission, he explained that Kurotetsu had acquired additional support in the form of 2 more shinobi. While he was slightly surprised, he had anticipated the possibility, as rogue ninjas rarely travel alone unless they are of the highest rank. Concluding his report, the dark-haired man stated, "Then we returned here and arrived just a few minutes ago. That concludes my report, Hokage-sama." The brown-haired leader nodded in acknowledgement and responded, "Excellent work. You have all performed exceptionally well. Teams 7 and 9 will receive C-rank mission pay, and the completion will be recorded in your files. Danzo, you will be awarded A-rank compensation along with the bounty for Kurotetsu." Turning to Koharu, he added, "Koharu, thank you for overseeing and assisting the teams. You will receive B-rank pay, along with the bounties for the Storm Twins." Koharu shook her head and declined, "I don't need the bounties. Just distribute them among the young ones, Hiruzen." The younger shinobi were visibly surprised by her generosity. The third Hokage offered her a warm smile. "Very well, it's your decision, Koharu-chan. You are all dismissed. You may collect your payment at the mission office down the hall. You have the next 3 days off." With that, the teams left the office and proceeded to the mission office to receive their earnings. The Jinan were awarded a total of 60,000 ryo for their mission, which, when divided among the 6 members, amounted to 10,000 ryo each. The bounty for the Storm Twins turned out to be 60,000 ryo each, totaling 120,000 ryo. When split evenly, each Shinan received an additional 20,000 ryo, bringing their total earnings to 30,000 ryo. However, they were particularly astonished when Danzo was compensated with 300,000 ryo for his A-rank mission, followed by an additional 500,000 ryo from Kurotetsu's bounty, leaving him with a grand total of 800,000 ryo. After leaving the mission office and exiting the Hokage Tower, Danzo turned to his team. "All right, Team 9, I'll see you all bright and early tomorrow morning for training. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm proud of your performance, you all did incredibly well. See you tomorrow." With those words, he disappeared using the body flicker technique. Team 9 beamed with pride at their teacher's praise, while Team 7 watched in amusement. The young ninjas decided to celebrate their first C-rank mission with a meal at a local barbecue restaurant. As they enjoyed their food and discussed future missions, they eventually parted ways. Naruko and Tsunade returned to the Senju compound, where they were immediately surrounded by Amaya and Mito, who fussed over them to ensure they were unharmed. Meanwhile, Itama stood off to the side, laughing while holding a giggling Nawaki. Naruko managed to slip away from the overly concerned women and head to her room, throwing an exasperated look at Itama, as if to say, "Traitor." Training Ground 9, 1 year later. Now 7 years old, the members of Team 9 stood in their training grounds, staring at an unfamiliar presence beside their sensei. Over the past year, since their first C-rank mission, they had completed 5 more C ranks and even 2 B-rank missions under Danzo's guidance. Their training had significantly intensified, leading to remarkable improvements. Sakumo and Izumi had reached mid-chunin level in skill, while Naruko had advanced to high chunin or low jonin level. Additionally, she had achieved the rank of level 5 Seal Master. Today, however, they were about to learn a completely new skill, one that Danzo had withheld until he felt they were prepared. This was the reason for the imposing presence beside him. Standing next to their dark-haired instructor was a hawk nearly as tall as him, with sleek brown feathers, a sharp, curved beak, and piercing golden eyes. What caught their attention the most, however, was its ability to speak. "So these are your students, Danzo-chan?" The hawk's voice was distinctly feminine, making it clear she was female. Danzo let out a sigh at the nickname. "Yes, Takahiri, these are my students. I appreciate you answering my summon, even though it wasn't for battle. I wanted to introduce them to the summoning jutsu and its purpose." The hawk nodded. "It's no trouble. Many of us have been eager to meet the students you've spoken so highly of. It's a pleasure to meet you, young ones." With that, she disappeared in a puff of smoke, returning to her domain. Danzo shook his head at her personality before turning to his students. "As you just witnessed, the summoning jutsu allows a ninja to call forth a creature with whom they have a contract, using a small amount of chakra. The type of summon varies, and they serve different purposes. My hawks, for example, are skilled in reconnaissance and tracking, thanks to their exceptional eyesight. They can also be used for transportation, flying me to locations I couldn't otherwise reach." His students listened attentively as he continued. "In addition, summons can be formidable in battle. My hawks possess powerful talons and beaks, and many of them utilize wind release techniques, along with unique abilities specific to their clan." Izumi raised her hand, and Danzo gave her a nod to proceed with her question. "How do we acquire a summoning contract? I know my clan has at least 2 summoning clans, but I don't want to rely on my family's summons. I want to form my own unique contract." Danzo smiled at her determination but quickly became serious again. "The only way to obtain a personal summoning contract is to perform the summoning ritual yourself. You must make a small cut on your hand, execute the necessary hand seals, and then press your hand onto the ground. Doing so will trigger the reverse summoning technique, which will transport you to the home of the summon that best aligns with your personality." He glanced at the group. "The best time to try this is right now, while I am here to supervise." Izumi nodded eagerly and turned to her teammates. "Are you both ready to try and find our summons?" Sakumo, however, shook his head. "I won't be participating. My family has an established contract with summoning dogs, and it's tradition for the clan head and heir to be their main summoners. I've already signed my contract." Danzo nodded, having expected this, while Izumi seemed slightly surprised but understanding. She then turned to Naruko. "What about you, Naruko?" The red-haired girl grinned. "I'm with you, Izumi. Let's see where this takes us." Izumi smiled in return, and the two proceeded to make small cuts on their thumbs before forming the 5 necessary hand seals. Pressing their hands to the ground, they called out in unison, "Summoning Jutsu." As the summoning symbol spread across the ground beneath their hands, a burst of smoke engulfed them. When it cleared, they were gone. Sakumo turned to Danzo with slight concern. "Danzo-sensei, are you sure they'll be all right?" Danzo nodded reassuringly. "Yes. The most they will face is the boss summons test. If they succeed, they'll return with their contract signed. If they fail, they'll simply be sent back without one. Until they return, you and I will continue training." Claw Mountain, Kuroyama. Naruko reappeared in the middle of a dense, forested mountain. As she scanned her surroundings, she quickly noticed that the trees around her were unfamiliar, indicating that she was no longer within the land of fire. To gather more information, she channeled chakra to her ears, enhancing her hearing. Within moments, she detected the sound of movement in the nearby underbrush. Closing her eyes, she knelt and extended her sensory abilities outward, searching for the nearest chakra signatures. She quickly located several sources scattered around her. Each one was moderate in size, but what stood out the most was the nature of the chakra itself. It felt untamed, almost primal, resembling that of wild animals rather than humans. Realization dawned upon her, these must be the summons she had come in search of. With that thought, she stood up and opened her eyes with determination. Turning to her left, she called out confidently, "I know you're out there. My name is Naruko Uzumaki, and I've come to request an audience with your leader regarding a summoning contract with your clan." She waited patiently for a response. When none came, she prepared to speak again. However, before she could, a rustling sound from her right caught her attention. Quickly turning, she spotted a large wolf emerging from the brush. The wolf was impressive in stature, its shaggy gray fur rippling as it moved gracefully. It stood at about 4 feet and 6 inches at the shoulder and looked to weigh around 100 pounds. Its piercing eyes studied Naruko carefully, assessing her with an almost calculating gaze. As the wolf stepped closer, stopping about 5 feet away, it suddenly spoke in a deep, commanding voice. "Young human, what makes you believe you are worthy of an audience with our alpha? Why do you think the Dire Wolf clan would accept you?" Naruko met the wolf's gaze, unwavering. I don't presume to be worthy, she responded honestly. I only ask for the opportunity to stand before your alpha and be judged. If your leader deems me unfit, then so be it. But I would rather be tested than assume my own value. The wolf studied her for a moment longer before nodding approvingly. A wise answer, pup. Very well. Climb onto my back, and I shall take you to the alpha. Naruko smiled in gratitude and did as instructed, carefully mounting the wolf's back. As they began their journey, she asked, by the way, what is your name, Wolf-san? The wolf seemed slightly surprised by the question, as many rarely cared to learn the names of anyone other than the alpha. After a pause, he answered, I am called Gurukaz. With that, they continued their trek toward the dire wolf's den. Meanwhile, at the same time, Izumi was undergoing a similar experience. She had encountered a different group, the Coyote Pack, and was on her way to meet their matriarch, the leader of their clan. Training Ground 9, 2 hours later. Danzo and Sakumo had spent the last 2 hours engaged in kenjutsu training while awaiting the return of their teammates. The silver-haired boy could see that their instructor was beginning to show signs of concern. As time stretched past the 2-hour mark, Danzo decided to take action. He prepared to summon a hawk to assist in locating his missing teammates. However, before he could complete the hand seals, 2 puffs of smoke appeared before them. When the smoke cleared, Naruko and Izumi stood there, each holding large scrolls. Relief washed over both Danzo and Sakumo as they took in the sight of their teammates, safe and unharmed. Their attention then shifted to the scrolls in their hands. Izumi's was a brownish hue, decorated with images of slender canines howling toward the sky, and the kanji on the front read Coyote, Koyote. Naruko's scroll, slightly larger, was gray and bore the image of a powerful, snarling wolf. The kanji inscribed on it read Dire Wolves, Dia Okami. Sakumo smiled proudly at his friends, while Danzo gave an approving nod. It looks like both of you successfully formed summoning contracts, with 2 different canine species, no less. Congratulations. Your training in summoning begins tomorrow. After wrapping up a few more hours of training, they were dismissed for the day. The group decided to seek out Team 7 and see what they had learned during their own training. Training Ground 7. As they arrived at Training Ground 7, they spotted Team 7 just finishing up their session. Naruko called out with a bright smile, Hey, everyone. Tsunade-chan. At the sound of her voice, the blonde-haired girl's face lit up with excitement. Naruko-kun. Oh, and hello to you too, Sakumo and Izumi-chan. What have you all been up to? Sakumo responded casually, Not much, just wanted to check in and see what you guys learned from Sarutobi-sensei today. Jiraiya smirked confidently. Well, you're in for a surprise. We learned the summoning jutsu today, and we all formed summoning contracts. However, instead of the shocked reactions he had anticipated, the 3 just chuckled and shook their heads. Izumi grinned. Funny, that's exactly what we did today too. Sakumo already had a contract, so Naruko and I had to be reverse summoned to the creatures that best represented us. We met their leaders, impressed them, and now we have contracts as well. Tsunade's eyes widened in excitement. Really? That's amazing. What summons did you get, Naruko-kun? Mine are slugs. Naruko chuckled at her best friend's enthusiasm. Since you were kind enough to reveal yours first, let's share by team. Jiraiya, Orochimaru, would you like to go next? Orochimaru spoke first, his tone calm and measured. I formed a contract with the Snake Clan. They reside in Ryuchi Cave, and the White Snake Sage himself permitted me to sign, stating that he saw great potential in me. Jiraiya huffed but quickly regained his confidence. Well, I got the best summons of all, the toads of Mount Myaboku. I was reverse summoned there and met a toad named Gamabunta. He wasn't exactly the friendliest, but I was taken to the great toad sage, who allowed me to sign the contract. Team 9 smiled at Jiraiya's enthusiasm. Then Tsunade turned to her friends. Alright, your turn. Sakumo went first. I have a contract with the Ninja Hounds, just like my father. It's been passed down in my family for generations, and as heir, it was both my duty and privilege to sign the contract. I was accepted by the head dog of the clan. Izumi was next. I formed a contract with the Coyote Packs of the Zogan Prairie. After meeting with their matriarch, she judged me worthy and allowed me to sign the contract. At this, Tsunade let out an excited squeal. That's so cool. You and I both have summons led by powerful female leaders. With my slugs and your coyotes, we'll show these boys what we're made of. Naruko laughed, happy to see her friend so enthusiastic. It seemed that the future held great things for all of them. This causes the boys to chuckle good-naturedly while Izumi nods in agreement with her only female friend. Naruko stops laughing and speaks up, "I guess that leaves me. My summons are definitely the most formidable. They are the dire wolves of Claw Mountain, the largest species of canine in existence. I was discovered by a small hunting party and brought before the alpha of the pack. He tested me and said he could sense great potential within me, believing I would make a worthy summoner. So, he allowed me to sign their contract, the first person ever to do so." Jiraiya and Orochimaru are momentarily speechless, while Tsunade giggles. "Only you, Naruko-kun, only you." Regaining his composure, Jiraiya clears his throat. "Well, now it looks like all 6 of us have summons. I can't wait for the chance to see them work together like we do sometimes." Everyone nods in agreement. Then, Izumi glances at her watch and realizes it's time for her to head home. "Sorry to cut this short, but I need to get back before my parents send my cousin Kagami out to find me. See you tomorrow, Naruko, Sakumo." With that, she dashes toward the Uchiha compound. Realizing it's getting late, the rest of the group also makes their farewells and heads home, leaving Naruko and Tsunade to walk together. As they stroll, Tsunade brings up something she's been wondering about. "Say, Naruko-kun, have you made any progress with your special abilities lately?" The redhead pauses for a moment before falling back into step. "A little. I've learned to use magnet release to break down and control certain metals. Right now, I can control iron, and I've been experimenting with making silver magnetic by constantly applying my chakra to silver coins." Tsunade looks intrigued. "What about lava and boil release?" Naruko smiles slightly. "I've finally figured out how to release the boiling mist without it affecting my throat. As for lava release, I'm still working on balancing my fire and earth chakra correctly to transform solid ground into molten rock. I think once I refine my fire and earth manipulation techniques, I'll be able to get it right." Tsunade grins. "Well, when you finally master your abilities, I hope I'll be the first person you show them to." Naruko returns the smile. "Of course, Tsunade-chan. Who better to share my progress with than my best friend?" Tsunade beams at the response as they reach the Senju compound and step inside, unaware that their bond will only grow stronger in the years to come. Senju House. 5 years later. Naruko's age, 12. Tsunade's age, 13. It has been 5 years since Teams 7 and 9 received their summoning contracts, and in that time, much has changed. Both teams have completed numerous missions, ranging from C rank to A rank, many of which were joint efforts. Thanks to their outstanding performances, they have all been promoted to Chunin by the Hokage. Their training has become significantly more intense over the years, sharpening their skills in ninjutsu, genjutsu, and bukiitsu, the art of weaponry. In addition, Team 9 has specialized in kenjutsu. Their taijutsu training has also seen remarkable improvements, with Jiraiya and Orochimaru each adopting unique fighting styles from their respective summoning contracts. Jiraiya has mastered Frog Kata, the toad-inspired martial art, while Orochimaru has perfected Snake Fist, a technique influenced by serpentine movements. Tsunade's abilities as a medical nin have developed tremendously. She is now capable of healing most injuries and even counteracting certain poisons. Naruko, on the other hand, has advanced significantly in Fuinjutsu, reaching the esteemed level of an 11th tier Seal Master. 2 years ago, upon reaching level 8, she received a special gift from Mito, notes and formulas written by Toburama Senju detailing the Hiraishin Jutsu, a unique teleportation technique. For the past 2 years, Naruko has dedicated time to understanding and refining this complex ability. Beyond her sealing expertise, Naruko has made significant progress with her 3 elemental bloodlines. Lava release, she can now summon geysers of molten rock from the ground and generate lava within herself to unleash powerful attacks, similar to the 5th Mizukage. She has also learned to manipulate quicklime and rubber-based variations of this technique. Boil release, Naruko has mastered the ability to produce and control corrosive vapor, adjusting its intensity and range. Additionally, she can use this element to enhance her speed and power, generating bursts of steam for propulsion, though not yet at the level of Han, the previous Jinchuriki of the 5 tails. Magnet release, by studying the techniques of the 3rd Kazekage and Gaara, Naruko has gained control over 3 distinct types of metallic sand, iron, cobalt, and gold. Her favorite is cobalt sand, which possesses a striking silver-gray appearance and is highly durable. Tsunade, fascinated by Naruko's advancements, often bombards her with questions. Meanwhile, Naruko has been experimenting with the last 2 elemental bloodlines she is believed to inherit, wood release and ice release. Her progress in ice release has allowed her to lower the temperature around her and generate small ice structures. However, her attempts at wood release have only yielded tiny saplings, indicating more training is needed. To enhance her physical abilities, Naruko has shifted from traditional weights to gravity seals, as regular training weights have become ineffective for her. Currently, her personal gravity level is set at 4 times that of a normal person, greatly increasing her strength and agility. This has also benefited her kenjutsu training, particularly in Hiten meets Harugi Ryu, a sword style focused on extraordinary speed, allowing her to draw, strike, and sheath her blade in an instant. A growing bond. Over the past 3 years, Naruko and Tsunade's friendship has deepened. A major turning point in their relationship came 3 years ago when Tsunade's father, Itama Senju, was lost during a mission. Despite being a member of the T&I department, he was deployed on an assignment where his team encountered unexpected opposition. The loss devastated Tsunade, and for weeks, she remained withdrawn, isolating herself in her room. Naruko, unwilling to let her best friend sink into despair, decided to intervene. Ignoring Mito's protests, she entered Tsunade's room and firmly encouraged her to keep moving forward, reminding her that her father would have wanted her to stay strong and continue striving for greatness. Moved by Naruko's words, Tsunade gradually regained her motivation, realizing the truth behind her friend's support. From that moment on, Tsunade became much more expressive with her appreciation for Naruko, often hugging her in public and even giving her small pecks on the cheek whenever she did something kind. Naruko, in turn, embraced these gestures with her usual cheerful nature, seeing them as Tsunade's way of cherishing their friendship. Unfortunately, another hardship struck the Senju family just a year later. Amaya Senju, Tsunade's mother, fell ill with a rare disease. Despite her determination to recover for the sake of her children, her condition worsened over time. 2 years after losing her husband, Amaya peacefully passed away in her home. This time, however, Naruko did not allow Tsunade to dwell in sorrow and regret. She stood by her at the memorial service, offering support and staying with her long after others had left, even as heavy rain poured down. For the following weeks, Naruko remained by Tsunade's side, ensuring she was never alone. She even went as far as to firmly request that Sarutobi and Danzo arrange joint training sessions for Teams 7 and 9 more frequently than the usual once a month. Through this growing bond, Naruko realized that Tsunade had developed a fondness for her. In turn, she found herself feeling the same way. Of course, it helped that Tsunade was not only an exceptionally skilled kunoichi but also maturing into a remarkable young woman. More than that, she was Naruko's closest friend, the one person she could confide in, trust completely, and share laughter with more than anyone else in the village. What was once admiration had slowly grown into something deeper, and now Naruko saw Tsunade not just as a guiding presence in her life, but as someone with whom she could build a future. The only challenge was finding the courage to express those feelings. Despite her usual boldness, Naruko hadn't yet managed to ask Tsunade if she'd like to spend time together beyond their usual friendship. Time had brought changes to them all. Naruko, now standing at 5 feet 1 inch, had grown taller than in her previous timeline, where she had been the shortest in her class. Her red hair had grown longer, resembling how it once had in another life. Her attire had also changed slightly, her vest now bore the image of a moon with a dire wolf howling at it. Sakumo had also grown, now standing at 5 feet tall. His spiky silver hair had lengthened enough to be tied into a small ponytail at the back of his neck. He now wielded the white light chakra saber, a tanto that belonged to the Hatake family, which was strapped securely to his back. Izumi had grown to 4 feet 11 inches, her figure maturing with a more defined waist and graceful curves. Her hair now reached down to her lower back, and her Sharingan had fully evolved, displaying all 3 tomoe. Team 7 had seen growth as well. Tsunade had blossomed into a confident young woman, her blonde hair still tied in its signature high ponytail. She now stood at 4 feet 11 inches, her body lean and strong from training. Orochimaru had also reached 5 feet 1 inch, his slim frame remaining unchanged, his pale complexion as striking as ever. His long black hair now cascaded down to his lower back. Jiraiya, the tallest of the group, stood at 5 feet 4 inches and had begun to develop broad shoulders, hinting at the powerful physique he would grow into in the future. Their two sensei, now 31 years old, showed subtle signs of aging, though their signature hairstyles remained the same. A new morning. Our red-haired hero, Naruko, stirred awake in her bed at the Senju main house, which she now shared with Mito, Tsunade, and 7-year-old Nawaki Senju. As she sat up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she stretched her arms over her head, feeling a satisfying stretch. Before she could fully wake up, her door burst open, and the sound of small feet pattering against the wooden floor filled the room. A mop of brown hair hopped onto her bed. Naruko-ne-san. Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! The little bundle of energy was none other than Nawaki, Tsunade's younger brother. Naruko chuckled, amused by his enthusiasm. I'm up, Nawaki-kun. No need to jump on my bed like that. A soft giggle came from the doorway. Naruko turned to see Tsunade leaning against the doorframe, smiling warmly. Glad to see I'm not the only one getting an early wake-up call, she teased. Naruko shook her head with a smirk. However, the movement caused her blanket to slip down slightly, revealing her toned torso. Tsunade's cheeks flushed pink at the sight, though she quickly looked away. Naruko noticed but chose not to comment, finding her reaction amusing. Nawaki, oblivious to the moment, eagerly continued, "Ne-san, you promised to help me with my taijutsu today. Come on, get up already." Naruko sighed but ruffled the boy's hair affectionately. "Patience, Nawaki-kun. I'll help you train today since I have a few days off from missions and team practice. But first, we need to have breakfast, and I need to get dressed. I can't exactly do that with you and Tsunade-chan standing here." At that, Tsunade's face turned an even deeper shade of red. She quickly scooped up her little brother and backed toward the door. All right. Come on, Nawaki-chan, let's give Naruko some space." As they left, Tsunade hurriedly shut the door behind her. Naruko chuckled softly before throwing off the blankets. Contrary to what she had implied, she wasn't just in sleepwear, she had on pajama pants. She had simply wanted to see Tsunade's reaction, and it had been worth it. Breakfast and conversations. After dressing in a blue kimono shirt adorned with a red uzumaki swirl on the back and whirlpool patterns along the hem, paired with blue pants, Naruko made her way to the dining room. Upon entering, she found everyone already seated. She greeted the matriarch of the house with respect. "Good morning, Mito Obasan." Mito, who despite being closer to 60 looked no older than 40, offered a warm smile. "Good morning, Naruko-kun. I trust you rested well after returning from your mission last night?" Naruko nodded, filling her plate as she took her usual seat next to Tsunade, who still seemed slightly flustered from earlier. As they ate, the conversation turned to current events, specifically the rising tensions among the great nations. Mito sighed, concern evident in her expression. "The way things are going, conflict seems inevitable. It will be your generation that faces the challenges ahead." Tsunade looked down at her plate, contemplating the weight of those words. Naruko, however, offered a reassuring smile. "Difficult times may be ahead, but we can only do our best to protect those we care about." As she spoke, she cast a subtle sideways glance at Tsunade. Mito noticed and smiled inwardly. Sensing the solemn mood, Nawaki decided to steer the conversation elsewhere. "Tsunade-ne-chan, can you help Oni-san teach me taijutsu today?" Tsunade ruffled her little brother's hair with a fond smile. "Sorry, Squirt. Unlike Naruko-chan, I don't have time off from missions and training. I have to head straight to my team's practice grounds after breakfast. Maybe next time." Nawaki pouted but nodded in understanding. Naruko, noticing his disappointment, reassured him. "Don't worry, Nawaki-kun. I've sparred with your sister enough times to know the Senju style pretty well, even if I don't use it myself. I'll make sure you learn plenty today." At that, Nawaki's mood lifted instantly, and he eagerly resumed eating, looking forward to their training session. The 7-year-old's face lights up with excitement as he nods eagerly. Tsunade leans in toward the red-haired girl and whispers, "Thank you, Naruko-chan. I truly appreciate this. Just name your price, and I'll make sure to repay you." Naruko smiles warmly at her and whispers back, "No problem, Tsunade-chan. The kid is like a little brother to me. Besides, I promised to help him with his taijutsu training, so there's no need to owe me anything." As they continue their meal, the blonde woman thinks to herself, "Naruko-chan, you're so oblivious. I was trying to hint that you could ask me out. If she doesn't realize it soon, I'll just have to take the lead and ask her on a date myself." Shortly after breakfast, the group finishes eating, and Tsunade bids farewell to the others. Meanwhile, Mito gathers the dishes and heads into the kitchen to wash them, while Naruko leads Nawaki out to the training ground. They begin their session with Naruko carefully correcting the boy's stance, refining his movements in the kata, and encouraging him to strike the training log with more precision. When lunchtime arrives, Naruko smiles at the young boy and says, "All right, that's enough for today, kiddo. You don't want to push yourself too hard." Take the rest of the day to relax and have fun with your friends after lunch. Nawaki grins with appreciation and nods enthusiastically. Alright, 1E-san. Thanks for helping me, Naruko 1E-san. I know you and Nei-chan are really busy as shinobi. Naruko ruffles his hair affectionately and replies, You don't have to thank me, Nawaki-kun. I'm always happy to help. No matter how busy I get, you can always count on me. The young boy beams at her, nods quickly, and rushes off to enjoy his lunch before meeting up with his academy friends. Naruko watches him go, then stretches before heading inside. She grabs a sandwich and makes her way to her room. Once inside, she pulls out her notes on the Hiraishin technique, both the ones created by the second Hokage and her own recreated version of her father's formula, which she memorized from a brief glimpse during the Fourth War. Analyzing the two, she notices that both are composed of intricate seal matrices, with her father's being more advanced. With this realization, she begins to isolate the similarities and differences, methodically deconstructing the seals. She becomes so engrossed in her work that she loses track of time. Before she knows it, the sun has set, and the moon now illuminates the sky. A gentle touch on her shoulder startles her, and she turns to see Tsunade, freshly showered. Naruko-chan, Ba-chan sent me up here to tell you that dinner is ready. Naruko smiles at her and pats her hand. Thanks, Tsunade-chan. Then, glancing out the window at the dark sky, she adds, Wow, I didn't even notice how late it got. Time flies when you're focused. Standing up, she stretches out her arms, feeling the stiffness leave her muscles, then turns to Tsunade. Alright, let's go eat. As they walk down the stairs together, Tsunade asks, So, are you any closer to figuring out how to use Uncle Tobarama's jutsu? Naruko smirks, a look Tsunade recognizes well, one she has seen many times when Naruko makes a breakthrough. I finally figured out the smaller seals that the second Hokage used to craft the technique. Now, it's just a matter of adapting them to fit my chakra and improving upon them. Once that's done, I can start practicing the technique myself. Tsunade beams with pride and wraps Naruko in a warm hug. That's amazing, Naruko-chan. With the Hiraishin, you'll become even greater than Sarutobi-sensei one day. Naruko chuckles, feeling a little flustered, but happily follows Tsunade into the dining room, where their small family gathers to enjoy dinner together. Training Ground 9, 2 months later. Naruko now stands face to face with Sakumo, engaged in an intense kenjutsu sparring match. She expertly blocks and parries the strikes from his white light chakra saber, which leaves a radiant trail with every slash. On the outside, she appears calm and composed, her movements fluid and precise, but internally, she feels a nervous excitement. Today is October 10th, her 13th birthday. However, that isn't what has her feeling tense. Tonight, as a birthday present to herself, she's finally planning to ask Tsunade out on a date. As Sakumo lunges at her again, Naruko swiftly flickers backward, creating distance between them. Seeing her opponent prepare to close in again, she raises her katana and calls out. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, Doryasan. Earth Dragon Flash. She swings her blade down, striking the ground when Sakumo is just 10 feet away. The impact sends dust and small rocks flying toward him. Reacting quickly, he dodges and blocks as best as he can, but a few stray projectiles manage to hit him in the leg and stomach, causing him to stumble slightly as he catches his breath. Naruko watches carefully, ready for the next round, but also mindful of the bigger challenge awaiting her tonight, the moment when she finally gathers the courage to ask Tsunade on a date. They hear a whistle and turn to see their sensei standing there. Alright, that's enough. Naruko is the winner of today's Kenjutsu training match. You all performed exceptionally well, as always. I'd say you're nearly ready to become Jonin like myself. Training the three of you over the past 7 years has been an incredible honor. You are all remarkable shinobi. The three students nod in gratitude toward their mentor, who has been like a father figure to them since they graduated from the academy. Their sensei clears his throat before continuing. With that said, you are all dismissed for the rest of the day. Oh, and Naruko, happy birthday. The red-haired girl scratches her head with a sheepish smile. Thank you, Danzo-sensei. Danzo nods before Izumi curiously asks, Sensei, what will you do once we all become Jonin? He looks at his students with a serious expression. I plan to return to the Anbu. Many Jonin in my position would consider training a new team, but I know I will never have a better team than this one. Besides, Anbu missions will help me keep my skills sharp as I grow older, which is important. They nod in understanding. Danzo then gestures for them to leave. Now, all of you, go enjoy the rest of your day. Naruko, make sure to enjoy your birthday." With that, he vanishes in a flicker. Naruko turns to her teammates and smiles. "Well, I'll see you guys later. I have something I need to take care of." Before they can respond, she disappears in a swift fire body flicker. Watching her leave, Izumi smirks and glances at their silver-haired teammate. "You think she's finally going to ask out Tsunade-chan?" He chuckles and nods. "Yeah, she looked determined. Though honestly, I've noticed Tsunade getting a little impatient with all the waiting. I wonder which one of them will speak up first." Izumi giggles. "I bet the moment Tsunade sees her, she'll get frustrated and just tell Naruko that they're going on a date." They both laugh at the thought before flickering away to their homes. Training Ground 7, 5 minutes later. Naruko arrives at Training Ground 7 in a burst of flames, slightly startling the group. Tsunade, upon seeing her, frowns slightly. Looking around, Naruko spots Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru, all standing at a distance. "Hey, Sarutobi-sensei. Jiraiya. Orochi-chan. Where's Tsunade-chan?" The three silently point behind her. Jiraiya and Orochimaru both look slightly annoyed by her nicknames for them. Naruko turns around with a bright smile. "Hey, Tsunade-chan. I came to walk you home." She quickly notices Tsunade's frustrated expression and tilts her head. "What's wrong, Tsunade-chan?" The blonde steps forward, crossing her arms. "What's wrong? I'll tell you what's wrong. For years, I've had feelings for you, but you never noticed. Ever since I turned 12, I've been waiting for you to ask me out. I even dropped hints, but you never picked up on them. Well, I'm done waiting." Naruko puts a hand on her chin, deep in thought. What could I have forgotten to ask her? Maybe I forgot to ask if Jiraiya was bothering her? No, he knows better. At this, the three men watching shake their heads and sigh at Naruko's cluelessness. Meanwhile, Tsunade's frustration grows, and she finally can't hold it in any longer. "No, that's not it. I've been waiting for you to ask me out." "So?" Before she can finish, Naruko interrupts. "Actually, Tsunade-chan, I came here for more than just walking you home. I wanted to ask if, as my birthday gift, you'd go on a date with me?" Tsunade, speaking at the same time, blurts out, "You and I are going on a date tonight." The moment she processes what Naruko just said, her frustration vanishes. She blinks in surprise. "Wait. Did you just ask me out on a date?" Naruko nods. "Yeah. Did you just say we're going on a date?" Tsunade slowly nods back. Naruko chuckles. "That confident side of yours is one of the reasons I like you, Tsunade-chan. Since we both agree, how about we head home and get ready for our date?" Tsunade lets out an excited squeal and leaps at Naruko, hugging her tightly. "Yes. Of course, Naruko-kun. Let's go now." She eagerly grabs Naruko's wrist and starts pulling her toward the exit, calling back over her shoulder. "Bye, Sarutobi-sensei. Jiraiya. Orochimaru-chan." The three remaining shinobi exchange amused glances, laughing as they watch the two girls leave together. Later that night. Sapphire Dragon Restaurant. A few hours later, Naruko and Tsunade sat together at a beautifully set, candlelit table in one of the most prestigious restaurants in the Hidden Leaf Village. Both had taken the time to dress for the occasion. Tsunade wore an elegant dark green kimono adorned with intricate tree branch designs, paired with simple yet refined zori sandals. A touch of makeup highlighted her features, and her golden hair was styled in a graceful bun, secured with traditional Japanese hairpins. Naruko, in contrast, was dressed in a dark blue dress shirt, neatly paired with tailored trousers and polished dress shoes, a refreshing departure from her usual shinobi attire. When the red-haired kunoichi had first seen Tsunade descending the stairs at their home, she was momentarily speechless, captivated by the sheer elegance of her companion. After recovering from her surprise, she quickly expressed her admiration, receiving a warm compliment in return. Tsunade then took Naruko's arm, and the two strolled through the softly lit streets of the village, savoring each other's company as they made their way to the restaurant. Upon their arrival, Tsunade was astonished. The Sapphire Dragon was renowned for requiring reservations months in advance. Curious, she asked how Naruko had managed to secure a table. With a playful smile, Naruko revealed that she had made the reservation just before Tsunade's birthday, having planned this special evening well in advance. Now, sitting across from each other, the glow of the candlelight casting a warm ambience between them, they awaited their meals. Naruko had ordered tonkatsu, a deliciously crispy fried pork dish, while Tsunade had chosen namuru, a finely prepared fish delicacy. Naruko smiled at the blonde. Sorry it took me so long to ask you out, Tsunade-chan, she admitted with a small chuckle. Tsunade shook her head gently. It's okay, Naruko-kun. Though, I was starting to wonder if you'd ever notice how I felt. Naruko's expression turned thoughtful. To be honest, I realized you had feelings for me shortly after Atama-san passed away. When I helped you through that difficult time, and you started showing affection, it finally hit me. That's when I started to feel the same way. A soft blush dusted Tsunade's cheeks. So, you like me the way I like you? She asked hesitantly. Naruko chuckled, teasing slightly. Well, that depends. How exactly do you like me? Tsunade pouted slightly before exhaling a small sigh, fidgeting with her fingers nervously. I like you as more than just my best friend, she admitted. I like you the way someone likes the person they hope will be their special someone. She kept her gaze lowered, afraid of what Naruko might say in response. However, her worries proved unnecessary. I feel the same way, Tsunade-chan, Naruko said warmly. Tsunade lifted her eyes, her brown irises shimmering with happiness. A bright smile spread across her face just as the waiter arrived with their food. As they enjoyed their meal, their conversation naturally flowed toward the things they admired about one another. One of the qualities they both cherished was their mutual determination to become great shinobi. Once they finished eating, Naruko paid the bill, and together they stepped back into the peaceful village night. The moon shone high in the sky, casting a silver glow over the streets. Tsunade sighed contentedly as she linked her arm with Naruko's, cherishing how wonderful the evening had been. She secretly wished for many more nights like this in the future. Meanwhile, Naruko's mind was focused on an important question she was about to ask. She hoped with all her heart that Tsunade would say yes. As they walked, Tsunade began to notice the incline beneath their feet. Glancing back, she saw the village gradually becoming smaller as they ascended. Turning to Naruko, she asked, "Where are we going, Naruko-kun?" Naruko offered a mysterious smile. "I'm taking you to my favorite place in the entire village. I think you'll love it." Tsunade tilted her head in curiosity, her puzzled expression almost making Naruko want to kiss her on the spot. However, she restrained herself and simply led Tsunade forward. Eventually, they reached the top of the incline, where the path evened out. Tsunade suddenly recognized their destination, the Hokage Monument. Before she could say anything, Naruko surprised her by gently lifting her into her arms. "Hold on tight, Tsunade-chan," she instructed. Trusting Naruko completely, Tsunade wrapped her arms securely around her neck. "I trust you, Naruko-kun," she whispered. With that, Naruko leapt gracefully into the air, landing atop the stone head of the second Hokage. A moment later, she set Tsunade back on her feet before taking a seat herself, gazing out over the village. Tsunade turned toward the breathtaking view and gasped in awe. From this vantage point, she could see the entire Hidden Leaf village, the streets bustling with life, people enjoying their own evenings, laughter and warmth radiating from homes and shops. It was truly a sight to behold. Naruko, watching her reaction, smiled. "It's beautiful, isn't it? Whenever I feel overwhelmed, I come up here. Looking at the village reminds me why I work so hard." Tsunade smiled softly and settled beside her, leaning against Naruko's side. "It's incredible, Naruko-kun. I can see why this is your favorite spot. Thank you for sharing it with me." Naruko nodded before taking a deep breath, her heart pounding slightly. "I didn't just bring you up here to see the view. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. You don't have to answer right away, but..." She turned to face Tsunade, looking into her warm brown eyes. "Tsunade-senju, would you be my girlfriend?" Tsunade's eyes widened as she saw the sincerity in Naruko's gaze. Her heart raced as she listened to the redhead continue. "I know we're only 13, but I believe in making the most of every moment. And I'd rather spend my days with you than without you." Before Naruko could say another word, Tsunade suddenly leaned in and pressed a gentle kiss to her lips. Naruko froze in surprise before quickly melting into the kiss, reciprocating the affection. Eventually, they pulled away, both catching their breath. "Wow," Naruko murmured, still a little dazed. Tsunade giggled at her expression. "I accept. I would love to be your girlfriend, Naru-kun. Now, let's just sit and enjoy the view together." Naruko beamed, wrapping an arm around Tsunade's shoulders and pulling her close. With the stars twinkling above them and the village glowing beneath them, they simply sat together, savoring the peaceful moment, happy to be in each other's company. A memorable evening. By the time Naruko and Tsunade arrived home, it was already midnight. The house was quiet, with Mito and Nawaki fast asleep. Naruko walked Tsunade to her room, pausing just outside the door. With a warm smile, she gently kissed her goodnight. "I had a wonderful time tonight," Naruko said softly. Tsunade returned the smile and gave her one last peck on the lips. "So did I. I expect all our future dates to be just as special. Good night, Naru-kun." With that, she slipped into her room, closing the door behind her. She leaned against it, pressing a hand to her chest as she tried to calm her racing heart. Meanwhile, Naruko turned to head to her own room, only to find Mito standing in the hallway, wrapped in a robe over her nightclothes. The older redhead chuckled, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "Well, Naruko, you seem to have had quite the evening. Care to explain why you and Su-chan are home so late?" Naruko laughed sheepishly, rubbing the back of her head. "I took her to the Hokage monument so we could get a good view of the village. We got caught up enjoying the moment and lost track of time. Sorry, Oba-san, I'll make sure to bring her home earlier in the future." Mito's smile widened. "Oh? So there will be more dates? That's wonderful. We were all waiting for you two to finally realize your feelings. Looks like I won the bet." Naruko blinked in surprise. "Wait, what? What bet?" Mito giggled at her shocked expression. "Well, let's just say that quite a few people, myself, much of the clan, Saru-chan, Danzo-chan, your teammates, and even Koharu-chan and Homura-chan, had a little wager on when you two would officially become a couple. I knew it would happen in your early teens, and I was right." Naruko could only gape at the revelation. "You all knew before we did?" Mito simply winked. "Of course. Now, get some rest. You've got a busy day tomorrow. Good night, Naruko." With that, she strolled off to her own room, leaving Naruko standing there, shaking her head in amusement. After a moment, Naruko decided to follow her advice and head to bed. Upon entering her room, she noticed a stack of gifts on her desk. Since she wasn't particularly tired, she changed into her pajama pants before gathering the presents and settling onto her bed to examine them. First, she opened the gifts from the adults. From Sarutobi, she received a scroll containing all of his Earth-style techniques, including some normally exclusive to the Hidden Rock Village. Koharu gifted her a romance novel with a note, for inspiration on planning wonderful dates with little Tsunade. Naruko could only shake her head at the older woman's teasing. Danzo gave her a pair of trench knives, designed to channel elemental chakra, especially well suited for her wind release. Mito gifted her an advanced Fuinjutsu scroll, written by her father, containing intricate sealing techniques. Next, she opened the presents from her friends. Jiraiya, ever playful, sent a plush toad with a note that read, "Toads rule, wolves drool." Naruko laughed at her friend's antics. Orochimaru gifted her a water-style jutsu scroll he had obtained on a mission but couldn't use himself. Izumi, ever generous, provided a scroll filled with Uchiha fire jutsu, a rare and valuable gift considering the clan's reluctance to share their techniques. Sakumo's gift was practical, a whetstone, sword polish, and a cloth for maintaining her blade. After organizing the scrolls and storing the trench knives in a seal on her wrist for quick access, Naruko set the rest of her gifts aside and lay down. As she drifted off to sleep, her thoughts were filled with a certain blonde-haired, brown-eyed girl, who, unbeknownst to her, was dreaming of her as well. Senju household, 2 years later. Naruko and Tsunade, age 15. The young couple sat together on the back porch of the Senju estate, watching Nawaki practice his water-walking technique. 2 years had passed since they officially became a couple, and they had only grown closer. Their bond had deepened through shared experiences, and despite the challenges of being shinobi, they had always found ways to support each other. The biggest challenge in their relationship had been balancing their demanding careers. Missions often kept them apart, but when they did work together, they turned them into fun competitions, seeing who could complete objectives the fastest or come up with the most creative strategies. In the past 2 years, much had changed in the village. Teams 7 and 9 had all risen to the rank of Jonin, becoming the most formidable shinobi of their generation. Tsunade had become the undisputed best medical ninja in the village, her skills surpassing all expectations. Izumi had solidified her status as a genjutsu master, even outshining her older cousin, Kagami Uchiha. Naruko herself had made remarkable progress. She had reached level 15 in Fuinjutsu mastery. She had mastered both Tobarama Senju and Minato Namikaze's versions of the Flying Thunder God technique, though she believed there was still room for improvement. Her elemental abilities had developed significantly, her ice release was fully refined, and while her wood release was still progressing, she could now create small trees with ease. Tsunade had initially been surprised, and even slightly frustrated, to to learn that Naruko had inherited her grandfather's legendary wood release, but after thinking it through, she realized it was irrational to be upset over something beyond Naruko's control. Instead, she took it upon herself to secretly search for her grandfather's notes on the technique, though she had yet to find anything substantial. Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Sakumo had also grown in strength, each becoming formidable in their own right. Jiraiya, the tallest among them at 5 feet 10 inches, had built impressive muscle while maintaining agility. Orochimaru, now 5 feet 6 inches, remained slim and flexible, making his unique fighting style even more effective. Sakumo, at 5 feet 7 inches, had grown into his role as a skilled swordsman, his silver hair now reaching his mid-back. Naruko, standing at 5 feet 8 inches, had matured into a striking young woman. Her once wild red hair was now neatly trimmed, and her sharp features made her one of the most attractive individuals in the village, something Tsunade was always proud to remind others of. Though she tried to keep a low profile, Naruko's abilities had not gone unnoticed. During a recent mission, she had used her elemental powers to protect her team, earning recognition across the shinobi world. As a result, she was now ranked A-class in the bingo books, particularly in the Hidden Rock, Cloud, and Mist villages. However, today, Naruko carried news that she knew would deeply upset Tsunade, something she had hoped to keep to herself for a little longer. But she understood that honesty was important, and there was no better time than the present. She took a deep breath and turned to face her, preparing to break the news. He gently kisses the top of her head as it rests against his shoulder. "Su-chan, there's something important we need to talk about." She sighs in contentment at his touch but straightens up when she hears the seriousness in his tone. "What is it, Naru-kun?" Seeing the concerned expression on her face, he sighs, already knowing she might be thinking the worst. "First off, I want you to know this isn't anything bad. I haven't done anything wrong, and I never would. You're the only one for me, Suheim." She smiles at that but still looks puzzled. "Then what's so important that we need to talk about it right now?" Naruko takes a deep breath before responding. "I'm leaving soon." Tsunade tilts her head in confusion. "Okay? So you're heading out on another mission. What about it?" Naruko shakes her head. "No, Suheim. I'm not leaving on a mission. I'm leaving the village for 3 years." Tsunade's eyes widen as she stares at her. "What? Where are you going for that long? And when were you planning to tell me?" Her voice rises with emotion, catching the attention of her younger brother and her grandmother, who now watches from the doorway. Naruko stands up as well, looking at her with a patient but serious expression. "I'm telling you now, and I need you to understand, this isn't about leaving you. I'm going to train. I'll be heading to the Whirlpool village to study with my clan and learn the secret techniques of my family. This is a chance for me to connect with my heritage, to understand the legacy my parents left behind. I thought you, of all people, would understand that." Tsunade's face softens as she listens, but her emotions overwhelm her, and she rushes into Naruko's arms. "I don't want you to go. What am I supposed to do for 3 years without you? You're the person I care about the most." Naruko is momentarily stunned but wraps her arms around Tsunade, gently rubbing her back. "I have to do this, Su-chan. It's important to me. While I'm gone, I want you to keep training and giving it your all. And if anything happens, I'm only a moment away." She reaches into her pouch and pulls out a special 3-pronged kunai, handing it to Tsunade. "If you ever need me, just use this, and I'll be there in an instant. No matter how far away I am. I promise." Tsunade clutches the kunai to her chest and wipes away her tears. At that moment, Mito steps out of the house, her expression calm but firm. "Nade-chan, if you need to blame someone for Naruko's departure, blame me. I'm the one who suggested she go to our ancestral home to train. I even wrote to the current clan leader and arranged for Naruko to study under them. And I convinced Hiruzen to approve her leave." Tsunade shakes her head. "I could never be angry with you, Ba-chan. I'm sad that Naru-kun is leaving, but I understand why she has to go. When she returns, she'll be even stronger than she is now. I just want to cherish the time we have left before she leaves." Naruko smiles warmly and embraces Tsunade again. "I leave in 2 weeks. So let's make the most of the time we have left. And when I return, we'll catch up on everything we missed." Tsunade lets out a soft laugh and nods in agreement. At that moment, Nawaki jogs up from the training grounds. "So you're really leaving, Nei-san?" Naruko nods at her 10-year-old brother. He frowns but quickly steps forward and hugs her tightly. "I'm going to miss you, Naruko Nei-san." She ruffles his hair affectionately. "I'll miss you too, Waki-chan. While I'm gone, I need you to look out for your sister, alright? You're the man of the house while I'm away. Nawaki straightens up, nodding enthusiastically. Of course, Nei-san. With that, they head inside to enjoy dinner together, making the most of their remaining time. The following 2 weeks pass quickly, with Naruko spending time with her friends and mentors. Jiraiya and Orochimaru promise to keep an eye on Tsunade, ensuring she stays safe during missions. Sakumo and Izumi express that they'll miss her but vow to hold things together in her absence, with Sakumo looking forward to a sparring match when she returns. 2 weeks later, Leaf Village, Eastern Gate. The day of departure arrives, and Naruko stands at the village's eastern gate, double-checking her supplies. A large group has gathered to see her off, including her teammates, friends, and mentors. Among them are Mito, Nawaki, Koharu, Danzo and his wife Koyumi with their young daughter, and Hiruzen Sarutobi with his wife Biwako and their son. After ensuring everything is in order, Naruko turns to face them. Well, that's everything. I'm going to miss you all. Just make sure the village is still standing when I get back. Her light-hearted remark earns a chuckle from the group. Hiruzen steps forward and places a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Travel safely, Naruko. When you reach the eastern coast, you'll find a port city. There, an Uzumaki escort will be waiting to take you to Whirlpool Village. Train hard, and be mindful of your relatives. Naruko grins. I'll do my best, Hiruzen Ni-san. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, it means a lot. The older man nods and steps back, allowing Danzo to approach. The experienced shinobi extends his hand, which Naruko shakes firmly. You've done well in your training. Make sure you come back even stronger. When you return, I expect a proper spar to see how much you've improved. Naruko smirks. Don't worry, Danzo-sensei. I won't disappoint. Koharu steps up next and pulls her into a warm hug. Make sure you eat properly and take care of yourself. And no skipping hygiene just because you're training. Naruko chuckles. I promise, Nei-chan. I'll eat well, except for ramen once a month, and I'll make sure to clean up before bed every night when I can. With her final goodbyes said, Naruko gives one last wave before stepping onto the road ahead. Though she is leaving for an important journey, she knows that the bond she has built will remain strong. And in 3 years, she will return, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever the future holds. She nodded happily and stepped back as Homura stepped forward, extending his hand. I look forward to seeing how much you've grown as a shinobi when you return, Naruko-san. Naruko returned the gesture, nodding at the formal man as he stepped back. Then, Sakumo, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru stepped forward, and the 4 young friends embraced in a group hug. Sakumo was the first to speak. Things won't be the same around here without you, my friend. It'll definitely be a lot quieter. The other 2 nodded in agreement as Orochimaru placed a hand on her shoulder. Your presence will be missed. You have been a great friend and comrade to all of us. Jiraiya patted her other shoulder with a grin. Now, don't be a stranger while you're away, Naruko. Send letters through summons so we know how things are going. Naruko sighed in exasperation at Jiraiya's usual antics but gave a small smile. I'll keep in touch, don't worry. Then, Izumi stepped forward and gave her a brief but warm hug. Goodbye, Naruko. I wish you well on your journey. Naruko smiled before playfully ruffling Izumi's hair, making her scowl. Take care of Sakumo while I'm gone, alright? We both know he tends to overthink things. Izumi huffed but nodded nonetheless. Mito then stepped forward and embraced Naruko affectionately. Goodbye, Naruko-chan. Please give my regards to the clan, and as Jiraiya-chan said, don't hesitate to send letters. Naruko hugged her back just as warmly. Goodbye, Mito Obaken. You were the one who took me in without hesitation and raised me in place of my parents. You've been like a mother to me, and I can never repay your kindness. I'll make sure to pass along your regards, and I hope that when I return, you'll be proud of the shinobi I've become. Mito smiled tenderly, placing a gentle kiss on Naruko's forehead before stepping back. Naruko then turned toward Nawaki, expecting him to step forward, but he remained where he was, making her frown. What? No goodbye from you, Nawaki-chan? Won't you miss me at all? The brown-haired boy tried to maintain a serious expression, but he sniffled slightly before responding, Of course I'll miss you, Wani-san. But as the man of the house, I have to be strong and reliable, just like you always are. Naruko chuckled, straightened up, and saluted him. Got it, Senju-san. I know I'm leaving everyone in good hands with you. Nawaki saluted back, and Naruko couldn't hold back her laughter any longer. After the laughter settled, the most important person stepped forward. The blonde kunoichi didn't say a word, she simply launched herself into Naruko's arms and hugged her tightly, unknowingly using a bit of her enhanced strength. Naruko, however, showed no discomfort and hugged her back just as fiercely. The others, sensing the moment, stepped back to give them privacy. After holding each other for a long moment, Tsunade finally spoke. "I won't tell you not to go. I know this is something you need to do. I just wish I could go with you, but with the war going on, it's not possible. Promise me that when I truly need you, the kunai will work. Promise me that when you come home, you'll still love me as much as I love you." Naruko smiled, resting her chin against Tsunade's hair. "I wish you could come too, but I can't take you away from your team, your brother, or your grandmother. I promise you that if you ever find yourself in a situation where you need me, just use the kunai, and I'll be there. And no matter how much time passes or how far apart we are, my feelings for you will never change." Tsunade smiled softly, and as they pulled apart slightly, they leaned in and shared a gentle, heartfelt kiss, pouring all their emotions into that final moment of affection. When they finally parted, both wore bittersweet smiles. Tsunade took a step back. "Goodbye, Naru-kun. I swear that my heart belongs only to you, no matter how long you're away. That is my vow to you." Naruko smiled and nodded. "I'll make sure to send letters to let you know I'm thinking of you, Suheim." Tsunade beamed at that as the others rejoined them. Knowing it was time to go, Naruko turned to everyone. "Well, this is it. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you all in 3 years, maybe even sooner, depending on how long my training takes. Sarutobi, if things get too bad with the war, don't hesitate to call me back." The Hokage nodded in understanding. With one last wave to everyone, Naruko turned and ran out of the gates, leaping into the trees and disappearing from sight. No one standing there could have imagined that when she returned, she would be one of the most powerful shinobi in the world, a hero whose presence would reshape the course of history. Dear YouTube family, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more awesome content. Your support means the world to me. Stay tuned for the next one. Until then, take care and keep enjoying the journey. Thank you. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.